Tonight, we will not fight against the mind, nor will we try to force it into silence or submission. We will instead walk gently through the gates, a path that leads us into the heart of Zen wisdom, a tradition that has carried its gentle truths across centuries, like a lantern guiding wanderers through the night. These teachings are not complicated philosophies meant to be memorized or dissected. Rather, they are simple yet profound truths, seeds of clarity that have the power to open vast inner landscapes. They are not commands to restrain the mind, but invitations, gentle hands that guide us away from the restless noise of thought and back toward the quiet sanctuary that is always waiting within us. Zen invites us to see the mind not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a vast open sky that can hold every cloud of thought and emotion. Thoughts drift across this sky like passing weather, sometimes light and fleeting, sometimes dark and heavy, but the sky itself is never harmed. It remains vast, steady, and limitless. Tonight, together we will walk this path. We will do so through quiet stories, tender images, and simple practices that remind us of a peace that does not depend on stilling the mind, but arises naturally, untouched by the turbulence of thought. Welcome to my channel. This is your refuge. This is your space, where you may safely set down the burdens you have carried throughout the day and allow yourself to be held in the embrace of stillness. Here, there is nothing you must achieve, no special state of mind you need to reach, no task, no goal, no struggle. Simply allow my voice to serve as a gentle companion, a soft current guiding you, like a stream washing quietly over smooth stones, carrying away the dust and weight of the day. For now, all that is asked of you is something simple. Breathe. Feel the slow, natural rhythm of your breath. Notice the gentle rise and fall of your body, like the ocean's tide, steady and unhurried. With each breath in, you receive calm. With each breath out, you release tension. Your journey into stillness begins not with resistance, but with honesty. It begins by looking kindly and directly at the nature of our own mind. If you listen closely, you may notice the constant hum of activity, the restless energy that seems to whirl and leap, often keeping us awake when we long for rest. In Zen, this ever-moving energy is called the monkey mind. The name is not an insult, but a playful and compassionate recognition. The monkey mind leaps endlessly from branch to branch, one thought to another, one memory to a worry, one worry to a fantasy, restless, curious, never quite still. This does not mean you are broken. This is not a flaw, but the natural, untrained way of the mind. The path to peace is not found in caging the monkey or scolding it into silence. Rather, peace arises when we learn to sit with the monkey, to observe its leaps and chatter with a patient and friendly heart. And in time, like a small animal that learns it is safe, the monkey too begins to rest. There is an old Zen story about a young painter named Kai, who lived in a quiet village on the edge of a great, still lake. Kai's greatest dream was to capture the moon. Not the moon in the sky, but its reflection, the perfect silver disk resting on the surface of the water. Each month, when the full moon rose, he would carry his finest brushes and silk canvases down to the lake's shore. He would sit beneath the stars, waiting for the moon to glow in still perfection upon the water. But each time, he was disappointed. A gentle breeze would whisper across the lake, scattering the moon into 1,000 shimmering fragments. A fish would leap, its splash sending ripples across the water that distorted the reflection. Even the light touch of an insect skimming the surface was enough to tremble the circle of light. Each disturbance ruined the image he longed to capture. Frustrated, Kai tried to control the lake. He tossed small stones into the water, hoping to counteract the ripples and restore its stillness. Yet his efforts only created more chaos. New disturbances, new waves, new distortions. The harder he tried to force the water into calmness, the more agitated it became. Loif Kwai would sometimes even hold his breath, as though the stillness of his body could somehow command the lake to still itself. But the more he tried to force silence upon the water, the more restless it seemed to become. With each attempt, his frustration deepened. His paintings grew tense and rigid, their strokes tight, his colors harsh. What he longed to capture, the serene, luminous beauty of the moon's reflection, slipped further and further from his reach. The life had drained from his art, leaving only the echo of his struggle. One evening, as the full moon rose bright over the mountains, an old monk descended from a small temple nestled high on the mountainside. His robe moved gently with the night air, and his pace was unhurried, as though each step belonged perfectly to the earth. When he reached the shore, he saw the young painter crouched in frustration, muttering at the wind, scowling at the broken reflection of the moon that danced restlessly on the rippled surface of the water. The monk sat silently for a time, silently observing. Then, with a gentle quality of speaking to a child, he lowered himself down onto a nearby rock. His voice, as soft as falling leaves, caressed the night air. The water is a very poor student, is it not? It refuses to be still for you. Kai turned sharply toward him, exasperation written across his face. "Master," he cried, "how can I ever capture the moon when the water will not cooperate? How can I hope to find stillness when there is nothing here but movement and disturbance?" The monk did not answer directly. Instead, he gestured toward the shimmering lake. His eyes reflected the same moon Kai was so desperate to hold. "You are attempting to paint the moon," the monk replied, "but you are not willing to paint the water. You are viewing the ripples as a blemish, as an adversary of your art. But are they really an adversary? Observe well. The shimmering, the play of light, the endless dance of silver and shadow. That is the way of the water. It is not fighting the moon. It is reflecting it in its own language, in constant change. The reflection is not ruined by the ripples. It is revealed through them." Kai blinked, unsure of how to respond. The monk's words did not feel like an answer, yet they rang with a quiet truth he could not ignore. The old monk then turned to him with a half smile. "For tonight," he said gently, "put down your brushes. Don't attempt to be a painter. Be the lake. Sit where the water sits. Feel the wind on your skin as the water feels it on its surface. When frustration's thought comes, let it ripple across your mind. Don't struggle against it. Don't attempt to smooth it out. Just watch it spread. Watch it dissipate. See the thoughts as you see the water. Observe the moon as it is, not as you wish it to be. Do not demand that anything be different. Allow it all, with no other choice." And perhaps out of weariness, Kai obeyed. He set down his brushes, let his silk canvas rest in the grass, and sat beside the monk in the stillness of the night. At first, his restlessness rose like a tide, impatience, irritation, the itch to paint, the demand for perfection. But As he did nothing but observe, he noticed something shift. His own thoughts rose and fell, just as the water's ripples did. His mind leapt, then quieted, then leapt again, and all the while he simply watched. In this quiet watching, a deep calm slowly settled over him. For the first time, Kaya realized that his own agitation had been the greatest disturbance of all, the true storm upon the lake. Time passed. The breeze softened and eventually stilled. The lake's surface became a flawless black mirror, and the full moon hung within it, radiant, silent, whole. Yet now, as he gazed upon its perfect reflection, Kay's desire to capture it had transformed. He no longer longed to possess it on his canvas. He saw that the beauty was never in a single, unmoving image. The beauty lived in the ripples, the shimmer, the waiting, the watching, and finally, the stillness. The entire journey was the painting. And with that realization, peace spread through him. Not the peace of control, but the peace of allowing. The story of Kai and the lake is in truth the story of our own relationship with our minds. At night, when we lie in bed and long for rest, we too become painters demanding perfection. We wish for our minds to be as calm and smooth as an untouched lake, flawless, so that we might drift easily into sleep. And when thoughts arise, worries, memories, plans for tomorrow, we see them as intruders, enemies, ripples ruining the stillness we crave. So, like Kai, we try to force the mind into silence. We scold ourselves for thinking. We command ourselves, stop, be still, think nothing. We try to push away the ripples of thought, but in doing so, we are throwing pebbles into the lake, creating more disturbance, more agitation. The wisdom of Zen invites us to approach differently. It whispers, put down the brushes. Let go of your agenda. You need not control the water, nor cage the mind. Simply become the observer. Watch with patience, with kindness. Allow the ripples to come and go. Let thoughts rise and fall like the waves of the lake beneath the moon. Your mind is the lake. The thoughts are the ripples. They are not mistakes, not intrusions, not signs that you are doing something wrong. They are the natural, ceaseless activity of the mind. Just as waves are the natural movement of the ocean, and the wind is the natural breath of the earth. Thoughts are not an obstacle to your peace. They are simply what the mind is doing in this moment. Peace, true peace, is not found in erasing every ripple, not found in the impossible task of forcing the mind to empty itself. Instead, it is discovered in how we relate to these ripples, when we learn to sit on the shore of our own awareness, calm, observant, steady, and simply watch thoughts as they arise and dissolve, without clinging to them, without judging them, without wishing them away. We uncover a stillness that was already there beneath the surface. This is the stillness of the observer. It is the silent, spacious awareness that contains all activity, yet is untouched by it. It is like the vast night sky, silent, infinite, embracing both the glowing moon and the drifting clouds. No matter how many clouds pass by, no matter how heavy or dark, they can never stain the sky. And in the same way, no matter how many thoughts arise, no matter how restless or anxious, they cannot stain the pure awareness that is your true nature. To bring this wisdom into your own experience, you do not need to do anything extraordinary. You do not need to sit in a temple or adopt a rigid posture. You can practice this simply lying here, ready for sleep, just as you are. The first step is to acknowledge what is present in this moment, without judgment. Just notice what is the quality of your mind right now. Is it busy, spinning from thought to thought? Is it calm and quiet? Is it anxious, hopeful, tired, or distracted? Whatever it may be, let it be exactly as it is. There is no need to force it, no need to fix it. Now, with a soft attention, bring your awareness to your breath. Feel the air entering cool and fresh. Feel the air leaving warm and relaxed. The breath is your anchor. It does not belong to yesterday or tomorrow. It always exists here in the present. Imagine yourself sitting on the shore of your own mind, and the breath is the solid rock beneath you, the place from which you can observe the lake with safety and ease. As thoughts arise, and they surely will, your practice is gentle. Simply notice them. You do not need to chase them. You do not need to push them away. You do not need to make them stop. Instead, you can softly label them, as though naming clouds drifting by. A thought about tomorrow arises. You gently whisper inwardly, planning. A memory from today surfaces. You softly note, remembering. A wave of unease rolls through. You acknowledge, worrying. The label is not judgment. It is recognition, a way of saying, this is just a thought, a ripple on the water, passing by. And then, with kindness, guide your awareness back to the breath. Your anchor, your steady ground. The mind may wander 100 times. That is not failure. It is simply the nature of the monkey mind. Each time you return to the breath, it is a moment of success, a moment of waking up from the trance of thought and resting once again in the peace of the present. Be as patient with yourself as the old monk was with Kai. No hurry. No scolding, only gentle returning. Let your thoughts be the drifting clouds. Let your breath be the steady earth beneath you. And let yourself rest as the vast open sky that holds it all. Now pause here. Feel the rhythm of your breath. Inhale, exhale. Notice how it rises and falls like gentle waves on the shore. Allow your body to soften with each exhale, releasing the tightness you may still be carrying in your shoulders, your jaw, your chest. Let the weight of the day melt into the mattress beneath you. This is your time. This is your refuge. And as we rest in this quiet awareness, we arrive at a truth that Zen calls us to remember. A truth that feels almost unnatural in the busy rhythm of our modern lives. It is the wisdom of non-doing. We live in a world that prizes effort. From the moment we wake, we are trained to strive, to accomplish, to organize, to fix, to move forward. Success, we are told, belongs to those who try harder, push further, achieve more. This mindset becomes so deeply ingrained that we even carry it with us into bed. We turn rest into a task. We treat sleep as something to accomplish. We lie down and whisper urgently to ourselves, I need to fall asleep now. And then we begin to try. But this very striving is often the very thing that keeps sleep at bay. Zen wisdom invites us to explore another way, the way of Wu Wei, effortless action, the art of not forcing, of allowing things to unfold in their own natural rhythm. Sleep is not achieved through effort. It comes like dusk, like the tide, like the blossoming of a flower. It comes when we stop demanding and simply allow. There is an old story from a village renowned for its woodworkers. In this village, lived a young carpenter named Lin. Lin was strong, ambitious, and determined. He believed mastery of his craft came only through force, through control, through bending the wood to his will. When he worked with a piece of timber, he battled it. If the grain resisted his chisel, he pressed harder, using all his strength to carve through. If the board was warped, he clamped it tightly, straining to bend it into the straight lines he desired. But the more he fought the wood, the more it resisted him. His work, though precise, lacked grace. His furniture was strong but stiff. His carvings were exact but lifeless. Lin's workshop was a place of constant struggle. The air was filled with the sharp sounds of grunting, the harsh scrape of tools, the crack of splintering wood, and long sighs of frustration. His benches were crowded with unfinished pieces, tables and chairs that stood rigid and lifeless. They served their purpose, but they lacked spirit. His work was functional, yet it seemed to carry the heaviness of his effort, the stiffness of his battle. In the same village, beside the river, stood a much quieter workshop. It belonged to the old master, Wei. Wei was frail, his back slightly bent with age, his hands marked by years of labor. And yet, when people looked upon his creations, they saw grace. His furniture curved as though it had grown that way on its own. His carvings seemed less like objects made by human hands and more like forms discovered within the wood itself. Villagers often said that Wei did not carve the wood at all. He simply revealed the shapes that had been waiting inside it all along. One day, after yet another exhausting battle with a stubborn piece of oak, Lin left his own workshop in defeat. He wandered down to the river to watch the master work. What he saw astonished him. Wei moved with no sense of urgency. He spent long stretches of time just holding a piece of timber in his hands, feeling its weight, running his fingers along the grain, as though he were listening to a story only the wood could tell. When he finally took up his chisel, his movements were slow, patient, almost like a dance. The tool did not seem to cut the wood, but to follow a path the wood itself had laid out. Each stroke flowed with ease, as though the wood had invited it. Unable to hold his curiosity, Lin asked, "Master, I use all my strength, and yet my work is clumsy and heavy. You use almost no strength, and your work is alive. What is your secret?" Wei smiled gently, his eyes reflecting the calm of the river. He bent down and picked up 2 small sticks from the floor. Holding one stick horizontally, he said, "This is your will." Then, holding the other stick vertically, he continued. He pressed the 2 sticks together in a cross. When you place your will directly against the woodcep's will, there is nothing but struggle, resistance, splintering. Then he shifted, laying one stick alongside the other, both pointing in the same direction. His voice softened. "But when I work, I do not force my will against the wood. I listen. I feel its nature, its strengths and weaknesses, its unique path. And then I place my will beside it, traveling in the same direction. There is no struggle, no breaking. The wood shows me what it wishes to become, and I simply help it along. The art is not in forcing. The art is in listening and aligning." Wei's wisdom is the very heart of the practice of falling asleep. Sleep, like the grain of the wood, has its own will. It has its own nature, its own rhythm. It cannot be commanded, cannot be pressed into submission by sheer force of effort. Sleep is not something we make happen. It is something that arises when the conditions are right. Yet so often, when we lie in bed at night, our minds buzzing, we press our will against the grain of rest. We repeat silently, "Sleep. I must sleep now." We glance at the clock, calculating the shrinking number of hours left before morning. We tighten with frustration at each passing minute, and in doing so, we are like Lin in his workshop, clamping the wood, pressing against its natural flow, and creating only more resistance. This struggle is the enemy of rest. It is the very opposite of what invites sleep. Our effort, our grasping, our urgency, all of it produces tension and alertness, a state that drives rest further away. The wisdom of non-doing, however, invites us to practice the way of way. It asks us to release the battle, to stop commanding, and instead to listen. It invites us to align ourselves with the natural process of rest, to trust it, to move in harmony with it. This means letting go of the goal of sleep itself. Paradoxically, the more we release the demand to sleep, the more likely sleep is to come. It is like opening a clenched fist. Only when you stop gripping can something new be placed in your hand. This shift is not small. It is a profound act of trust. Trusting that your body already knows how to rest. Trusting that if you create the right conditions, a quiet space, a comfortable bed, a softened mind, then sleep will arrive in its own time. It may not be when you demand it, but it will come naturally, like the tide returning to the shore. The art is not in trying to sleep. The art is in letting go of everything that stands in the way of sleep. And so, to practice this art of non-doing, begin by shifting your intention. As you lie here, gently let go of the command, "I must sleep." Instead, replace it with a softer, kinder intention. "I will rest." Resting is something you can do. Rest does not depend on the clock. Rest is not measured by success or failure. Rest is here, now in this moment, available to you with each breath. Sleeping is not something you do. It is something that happens naturally, like the setting of the sun or the blooming of a flower. Your only role for the next little while is simple. Rest. Rest your body. Rest your mind as best you can. Let that be enough. Begin with the body, your most immediate anchor. Bring your awareness to all the points where your body touches the surface beneath you. Notice the weight of your head resting on the pillow. Feel the heaviness of your shoulders, your back, your hips, and your legs sinking gently into the bed. With every exhale, imagine yourself letting go just a little more, surrendering a little deeper, as if the earth itself were reaching up to hold you. Allow gravity to do the work. You do not need to carry yourself now. You are safe to release your weight completely. Next, bring this same attitude of surrender to your muscles. Imagine a soft light of awareness slowly scanning through your body, beginning at the crown of your head and drifting downward. Wherever this awareness touches, simply acknowledge what is there. Tightness, ease, or fatigue, without judgment, without needing to change it. Notice the tiny muscles around your eyes. You do not need to force them to relax. Simply bring your awareness there and give them permission to soften. Notice your jaw, so often clenched with unspoken words or quiet effort. Let it loosen. Let it fall open just slightly. Notice your shoulders. Invite them to drift down, away from your ears, as though they are melting into the bed. This is not another task on a to-do list. It is not effort. It is gentle allowing. a slow yielding, a process of letting go. Finally, extend this attitude of surrender to your mind. Allow your thoughts to rise and fall, to come and go, without needing to control them. Let them be there, like clouds drifting across the open sky. Your only task is to rest in the awareness behind the thoughts, the vast, quiet space in which they appear. If you like, you can support this state of surrender with a simple, silent phrase that you inhale, softly whisper inwardly, "I have nothing to do." And as you exhale, let yourself say, "I have nowhere to go." This is a radical act of contentment, a declaration that the present moment is enough. You are not trying to get to sleep. You are resting here, now fully, and that is more than enough. By ceasing the struggle, you create the perfect conditions for the grain of the wood to reveal its true shape, for the river of rest to carry you without effort into the deep, quiet ocean of sleep. Our journey now leads us toward another essential wisdom, the importance of finding our center. So much of modern life pulls our energy upward and outward. Screens demand our gaze. Voices demand our response. The endless tasks of the day scatter our attention into fragments. Our mental energy rises into the head, spinning in loops of thought, analysis, and worry. And when the night comes, when external distractions fade, we often feel the imbalance even more strongly. We are left with an anxious sense of floating, as though we are untethered, drifting in a sea of thought with nothing solid beneath us. The wisdom traditions of Zen teach that true calm and stability are not found by battling the chaos of the mind. They are discovered by dropping our awareness down into the quiet, solid center of the body, the place where we are rooted, steady, grounded like a tree. There is an old story of a young woman named Ami, who longed to become a master archer. She had a keen eye, a steady hand, and when she practiced alone in her courtyard, her arrows flew with grace and precision. Again and again, they struck the center of the target. But in competition, her skill deserted her. The presence of the crowd, the eyes of the judges, the weight of expectation, these stirred storms of anxiety in her mind. Her thoughts raced. What if I miss? They are all watching me. I must not fail. Her body followed the turmoil of her thoughts. Her shoulders tensed. Her breath grew shallow. Her hands trembled almost imperceptibly. And so her arrows strayed wide of the mark. Disheartened, Ami sought guidance from a Zen master, himself a legendary archer. The master watched her shoot. He saw her technical skill, but he also saw the tremor beneath it, the subtle quiver of a spirit unrooted. He did not correct her aim. He did not adjust her form. He gave no instructions about bow or arrow. Instead, he told her to put her bow aside. For the next month, he said, "Your only training will be to stand still for 1 hour each morning." The Mai was confused. How can standing still improve my aim? The master shook his head gently. Your problem is not in your arms or in your eyes. It is in your roots. You are like a leaf blown by the wind. You must become the tree. He instructed her to place her hands on her lower abdomen, a few inches below her navel. This, the master said, is your hara, your center, the root of your energy and your stability. All the frantic thoughts in your head are like leaves rustling in a storm. You waste your strength trying to calm the leaves, yet the wind never stops at your command. Instead of battling the storm, bring your attention down, out of the restless branches, out of the storm in your head, and into the silent earth of your center. Breathe here. Feel the solidity. Learn to live from this place. Kamel followed his instruction. Each morning she stood still, hands resting on her belly, breathing gently into that quiet point below her navel. At first, it was maddening. Her mind raced back to its usual patterns. Doubts, fears, rehearsed conversations, the endless noise of worry. Again and again, she had to guide herself back, like a shepherd returning a straying lamb to the fold. But with patience, she returned each time to the simple rhythm of her breath in her belly. Little by little, something began to change. She felt more grounded, more steady, as though she were drawing strength directly from the earth itself. The chatter in her head did not vanish. It still rustled like wind through branches, but it no longer carried her away. It was just weather, passing, impersonal, no longer her. When the master finally allowed her to pick up her bow again, Emmy stepped onto the range with a new presence. The crowd was still there. The eyes of the judges were still upon her. The pressure had not disappeared, but she had discovered her anchor. As thoughts of fear rose in her mind, she did not resist them, nor did she let them rule her. She simply kept her awareness rooted in her center. In the slow, deep rhythm of her breath, she drew the bow. Her arms, no longer tense, moved with ease. Her gaze softened. Her energy flowed from a deep, stable place. She released the arrow. It flew silent and true, piercing the very heart of the target. Ami's journey, from the storm of the head into the stillness of the hara, is the same journey we are invited to take, especially when we are seeking rest. The storm of anxiety, the looping what-ifs, the replayed conversations, this is the chaos of the leaves. And just as leaves can never be stilled by tugging at each one, our anxious thoughts cannot be calmed by more thinking. To try is like pouring oil on a fire. Our efforts only feed the flames. Zen offers another way. Shift the seat of your awareness. Step down from the storm of the mind into the solid ground of the body, specifically into the hara, the deep center just below the navel. Here lies immense stillness, a reservoir of strength. It is not an abstract idea, but a living, physical experience. When you rest your attention here, the breath naturally deepens. The nervous system softens. The body begins to feel heavier, anchored, connected to the earth beneath you. Thoughts may still rustle above, but they no longer have the same hold. You are no longer a leaf tossed about by the wind. You are the tree, rooted, steady, unshakable. This shift from thinking into feeling, from head into body, is one of the most direct pathways into the calm that welcomes sleep. You can try this grounding now. As you lie here, if it feels right, place one or both hands gently on your lower abdomen. Let your palms rest softly, a quiet gesture of connection. The warmth of your hands can guide your awareness inward, like a lantern illuminating the doorway to your center. Begin to invite your breath into this place. As you inhale, imagine the breath traveling all the way down beneath your hands, filling your belly like a soft balloon, round and effortless. As you exhale, feel the gentle falling, the release, as though the earth itself is drawing the breath back down. Do not force anything. This is not control, but invitation. Allow the breath to find its own depth. Notice the subtle warmth, beneath your palms. Feel the rhythmic expansion and release. You are resting now in the very center of yourself, the place beneath the storm, the place where stillness lives. This, the Master said, resting his hand just below the navel, is your hara, your center, the root of your energy and your life. All the frantic thoughts in your head are like leaves rustling wildly in a storm. Do not waste your energy trying to calm the leaves one by one. The wind will not listen. Instead, bring your awareness down out of the storm in your head and into the silent, steady earth of your center. Breathe into this place. Feel its solidity. Learn to live here. Mime practiced as he instructed. At first, it was not easy. Her mind, accustomed to racing through worry and doubt, leapt back into its patterns the moment she turned inward. Thoughts crowded her like restless birds, but each time, with quiet persistence, she guided her awareness back down again and again into the calm, steady feeling of her breath filling her belly. Slowly, the shift began. She felt herself more grounded, more solid, as if she were drawing strength up from the earth itself. The constant chatter in her head did not vanish. It still whispered and hummed like wind through branches, but it no longer carried her away. It became background noise. Nothing more. It was just the sound of the wind, and it was no longer her. When the Master finally placed the bow back in her hands, Ami stepped onto the range with a new sense of presence. The crowd was still gathered, the judges still watching, the old pressure still heavy in the air. But this time, she had discovered a place to stand within herself. As the familiar thoughts of fear arose, she did not fight them. She did not scold them. She simply anchored her awareness in her center, in the slow, deep rhythm of her breath in her belly. She drew the bowstring back. Her arms relaxed. Her mind grew quiet. Her energy rose from that deep, stable place. The arrow flew silent and true, burying itself in the very heart of the target. Mine's journey from the restless storm of her head into the steady ground of her hara is the same journey we are all invited to take, especially when we long for rest. The storm of anxiety, the endless what-ifs, the replayed conversations from the day, this is the chaos of the leaves. We cannot think our way into peace. Trying to solve anxiety with more thought is like trying to put out a fire with oil. It only feeds the flames. Zen wisdom points to another way. Shift the seat of your awareness. Drop it out of the spinning mind and into the body, into the deep, quiet center that is always there. This center, the hara, is a wellspring of stillness and strength. It is not just an idea. It is a direct physical experience. When you rest your awareness here, your breath naturally deepens. Your nervous system softens. Your body feels heavier, steadier, more connected to the ground beneath you. Thoughts may still drift and stir above, but they lose their power over you. You are no longer a leaf tossed by the wind. You are the tree, rooted, grounded, unshakable. This shift from thinking to feeling, from head to belly, is one of the most direct paths into the deep calm that prepares the way for sleep. You can practice this grounding right now. As you lie here, if it feels comfortable, gently place one or both hands on your lower abdomen. Feel the warmth of your palms, a quiet signal guiding your attention downward. Let this touch be like an anchor, a reminder of your center. Now, begin to invite your breath into this space. As you inhale, imagine the breath traveling all the way down beneath your hands, filling your belly like a soft balloon, round and effortless. As you exhale, feel the gentle falling, the release, as though the earth itself is drawing your breath back down. There is no need to force anything. This is not control, but invitation. Allow the breath to find its own rhythm, its own depth. Notice the warmth of your hands sinking into your body. Notice the subtle rise and fall beneath them, the quiet rhythm, steady and dependable, like waves meeting the shore. You are resting now in your center, beneath the storm, beneath the leaves, in the place of stillness that has been waiting for you all along. Let this be the entire focus of your attention. Rest your awareness in the warmth and gentle rise and fall beneath your hands, in the soft rhythm of your breath moving through your center. Your mind will, of course, wander back up into thought. It is simply what minds do. When it does, notice it kindly, without any criticism. Acknowledge the thought, then gently, patiently guide your awareness back down to the steady warmth and quiet movement in your belly. With every exhalation, imagine yourself sinking a little deeper into the mattress, heavier, more grounded, more at ease. You might picture a small glowing sphere of golden light resting in your hara, warm and steady. This golden ball is like an anchor of calm holding you in safety and stability. When a wave of worry or distraction arises, imagine it as nothing more than a passing cloud high above in the sky. You are not the cloud. You are the earth beneath, rooted, still, and steady. Let this feeling of groundedness be your refuge tonight. There is nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to solve. The world can spin on without you for a while. Your only task is to rest here at your core, in the quiet solidity of your own being. And now, having found some measure of rootedness, we can begin to look at the contents of the mind with a softer, kinder gaze. For so often, what keeps us awake at night is not only the restless energy of thoughts, but the voice of the inner judge. As the world around us grows quiet, this internal critic grows loud, replaying the events of the day, pointing out every mistake, every shortcoming, every moment where we feel we did not measure up. We lie in the dark, auditing ourselves with relentless scrutiny, holding ourselves to a standard of perfection that we would never demand of anyone we love. And this inner battle, this constant self-criticism, is exhausting. It creates a conflict within us, and conflict is the enemy of rest. Zen wisdom offers a gentle and transformative antidote to this poison of perfectionism. It is the teaching of wabi-sabi, the art of finding beauty in imperfection, in incompleteness, in the marks of time and touch. There is a story told of a young potter named Kenji, whose life was consumed by the pursuit of perfection. From dawn until dusk, he worked tirelessly at his wheel, his brow furrowed, his hands moving with practiced precision. His dream was to create the perfect tea bowl, a vessel flawlessly symmetrical, smooth and unbroken in glaze, perfectly balanced in weight, a piece without blemish. Kenji was gifted, but his obsession became his torment. For every bowl he allowed to remain on the shelf, he smashed 100 more. The faintest wobble in the rim, the tiniest bubble in the glaze, the slightest fingerprint left in the clay, any mark of human imperfection, and the piece was cast aside in disgust. His workshop floor became a graveyard of broken shards, the fragments of his own impossible expectations. One day, news spread that the most respected tea master in the province would be passing through the village. This was a great honor, for the tea master's eye for beauty was renowned. The village elder came to Kenji and asked him to create a bowl worthy of serving tea to the master himself. Kenji felt both proud and terrified. At last, here was his chance to prove himself. But he also knew the weight of the task. For days and nights, he worked without rest, his hands raw, his mind consumed by the vision of the flawless bowl he must create. This was the chance Kenji had been waiting for, the ultimate test of his skill. He threw himself into the work with desperate intensity. For weeks, he barely ate or slept. His hands spun clay, hour after hour, his mind burning with perfectionism. Bowl after bowl emerged from his wheel, each one more technically flawless than the last. Their rims were smooth, their glazes even, their shapes exact. But still, none of them felt alive. They were cold, sterile, empty of soul. On the eve of the master's arrival, Kenji sat before his latest creation, a bowl as close to perfect as he had ever made. Yet when he looked at it, something in him recoiled. It was lifeless. In despair, he smashed it to the ground, shards scattering across the floor. With nothing left, exhausted and hollow, Kenji sat among the ruins of his own striving. And then his eyes fell upon a bowl he had discarded weeks earlier. It was nothing special. He had made it absent-mindedly at the end of a long day, and to his perfectionist's eye, it had been a failure. Its rim was uneven, one side slightly higher than the other. A thin, dark crack had formed in the glaze during firing, a flaw that had once filled him with shame. But now, in his state of surrender, he saw it differently. The uneven rim curved with a gentle character. The crack was no longer a scar, but a story, a testament to fire and time. The bowl felt humble, imperfect, but undeniably real. It felt alive. With no other option, Kenji decided to present this bowl to the tea master. The next day, when the master arrived, he received the bowl in silence. He turned it slowly in his hands, his thumb pausing to trace the line of the crack. Kenji held his breath, certain he would be scolded, humiliated. But when the master finally looked up, his eyes were not critical. They were filled with appreciation. "This," the master said softly, "is a bowl that understands tea. It is a bowl that understands life. It does not pretend to be flawless. Its imperfection tells its story, its journey through the fire. It is beautiful." The tea master's wisdom speaks to the heart of wabi-sabi. True beauty is not found in sterile perfection, but in the humble, authentic, transient nature of life itself. A wabi-sabi heart sees beauty in the weathered stone, in the gnarled branch of an old tree, in a tea bowl with a crack that reveals its passage through fire. Imperfections are not failures. They are marks of existence, the signatures of time, the evidence of life lived fully. And so often, we are like Kenji. We hide our cracks, our vulnerabilities, our flaws. We strive to present a polished version of ourselves to the world. And when night falls, our inner critic emerges, tormenting us for every imperfection, every moment of weakness, every place we fell short of an impossible standard. This inner war exhausts us, keeping us restless and awake. The teaching of wabi-sabi is an invitation to lay down our arms. It is a practice of radical self-acceptance. It is the permission to be human. Your life, your body, your mind, your day. They will never be perfect. You will falter. You will carry scars. You will have moments of clumsiness, of regret. But wisdom is not about erasing these flaws. It is about holding them with the same tenderness and reverence the tea master held Kenji's bowl. Can you trace the lines of your own cracks, not with judgment, but with compassion? Can you see them as the places where your humanity is most visible, the places that make you real, the places that make you beautiful? You can practice this self-acceptance now, at the end of your day. Instead of letting your mind default to a critical review, gently guide it toward compassion. Let a single moment from your day come to mind, a moment when you felt less than your best. Perhaps you were impatient with someone. Perhaps you made a mistake. Perhaps you stumbled in a conversation. Let the memory arise. Notice the sting of self-judgment that may come with it, but do not push it away. Now imagine you are the old tea master, holding this moment in your hands, as though it were a bowl. Look at it with wise, kind eyes. See the humanity in it. See the tired person who made the mistake, the overwhelmed person who lost their patience. Can you offer this person yourself, a drop of compassion? Instead of judgment, offer a gentle phrase of kindness. It is okay to make mistakes. I did the best I could in that moment. I am human. You may also picture the flaw itself, the crack in the bowl of your being. Instead of wishing it gone, imagine you are practicing kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with gold. Visualize a warm, golden light of compassion filling the crack. See the line illuminated, glowing softly, transformed into something unique and beautiful. Your cracks do not make you broken. They make you whole. They are the lines of your story, the evidence of your resilience, the golden seams that reveal your truth. Let this golden light of acceptance pour into every place in you that feels broken, inadequate, or unworthy. See it filling the hairline fractures, the hidden corners, the tender scars of your being. This is not about excusing harm or pretending mistakes don't matter. It is about ending the cycle of self-hatred, the inner war that often fuels the very patterns we long to change. It is about recognizing that real growth, real transformation, can only take root in the soil of self-acceptance. Tonight, release the impossible demand of perfection. Offer yourself the same grace you would so naturally extend to a dear friend. You are the imperfect bowl, and you are beautiful, not in spite of your cracks, but because of them. Let's pause here together. Take a slow, steady breath in. Fill your lungs completely, then release it with a long, gentle sigh. Feel your body sink a little deeper into the surface that supports it, as though the earth itself is holding you close. Let go of the day. Let go of striving. Let go of the need to be anywhere other than here. This moment is enough. And as we soften into this acceptance, we turn toward one of the most fundamental truths of life, a truth that, when embraced, can dissolve vast layers of our anxiety. It is the teaching of impermanence. Our minds instinctively seek solid ground. We long for permanence in a world that is always moving. We cling to what we love. Moments of happiness, cherished relationships, our youth, our health, wishing desperately that they would last forever. This clinging, this resistance to change, creates an undercurrent of tension in our lives. A subtle, constant fear of loss hums beneath our days, and at night it can emerge as anxious worry about the future, about what might be taken away. We cling not only to joy, but to pain. We hold tightly to our identities, our roles, even our wounds and old stories, afraid of what might happen if we let them go. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence, anicca, is not a grim declaration that all things fade. It is a compassionate invitation to release our grip, to stop fighting the natural, graceful flow of life, and to discover peace in the letting go. There is a tale told of a great king who ruled over an empire of immense wealth and power. He possessed everything a person could desire. Palaces of marble, gardens of extraordinary beauty, riches beyond counting. Yet, for all his treasure, he was deeply anxious. His greatest joy, his single refuge, was to climb to the highest tower of his palace and watch the clouds. He loved their magnificent shapes, the way they shifted endlessly, the way their edges glowed gold at sunrise and blazed crimson at sunset. To him, they were symbols of pure perfection and beauty. But his joy was always mixed with sorrow. For even the most glorious cloud, no matter how radiant, would inevitably drift away, dissolve, or change its form. This transience tormented him. He could not bear the thought that beauty must vanish. And so the king conceived a plan. He became obsessed with the idea of possessing one perfect cloud. If he could capture it, hold it, freeze it in time, then he would never again fear loss. He summoned the greatest minds in his kingdom and gave his command. Bring me the most beautiful cloud in the sky. I want it captured so I may admire it forever. His architects designed a colossal tower, taller than any before, its peak reaching up into the heavens. His engineers devised a massive net woven of the finest silk, strong and delicate enough to grasp the elusive sky. His scholars and scientists proposed a vast crystal chamber, airtight and sealed, where the cloud could be displayed in the throne room for all eternity. Years passed. Fortunes from the royal treasury were poured into the project. Thousands of hands labored day and night, and at last the day came. From the palace tower, they spied a magnificent golden-edged cloud, drifting majestically across the afternoon sky. It glowed with a beauty so radiant it seemed not of this earth. With tremendous effort, the net was cast. Slowly, painstakingly, they lowered the cloud into the great crystal chamber and sealed it tight. The king was ecstatic. He had done what no one else had ever dreamed. He had conquered impermanence. But as the king sat proudly on his throne, ready to admire his great prize, a strange and sorrowful thing began to unfold. The magnificent cloud, cut off from the wind that carried it, cut off from the sunlight that illuminated it, cut off from the open sky that had given it space to drift, began to lose its form. Its radiant golden edges dimmed. Its graceful shape collapsed. Slowly, it shrank, turning into a formless, heavy gray fog. The fog thickened, condensed, and finally sank to the bottom of the chamber. What had once been a glorious jewel of the heavens was now nothing more than a few shallow puddles of murky water. The king stared in horror. His triumph had become his loss. The very act of trying to possess the cloud had destroyed the beauty he had longed to preserve. And then, from the edge of the hall, a humble gardener, who had been quietly tending the palace plants, spoke. His voice was soft, but it carried with it the weight of truth. "Your Majesty," he said, "you can only love a cloud when you let it be free. Its beauty is not in being captured. Its beauty is in its flowing. The king's folly is our own. We, too, try to capture the clouds of our lives, to seal them in crystal boxes so they will never fade. We cling to moments of happiness, to treasured days, to feelings of love and connection. And as soon as joy arrives, the mind whispers, "I want to keep this. I don't want this to end." But this desire, this clinging, is the root of our anxiety. It pulls us out of the beauty of the moment itself and into fear about its loss. We stop enjoying the cloud and begin to obsess over the net. The wisdom of impermanence is the wisdom of the gardener. True peace and true joy are found not in clinging, but in letting life flow, loving the clouds without needing to possess them. This teaching has two sides, like the two wings of a bird. On one side, when we experience pain, impermanence is our comfort. A storm of sadness, anger, or fear may feel overwhelming and endless, but no storm lasts forever. Even the darkest cloud will eventually shift, dissolve, and pass. Remembering this allows us to endure hardship with patience. We don't have to fight the storm so fiercely. We can allow it to move through us, knowing it is temporary weather. On the other side, when we experience joy, impermanence deepens our love. Knowing that happiness too will pass makes it all the more precious. Instead of anxiously clinging, we relax into presence. We savor each detail, the sound of laughter, the colors of the sunset, the warmth of a friend's hand, knowing that this exact moment will never return. Impermanence transforms clinging into gratitude. It awakens us to the gift of life as it is, here and now. To embody this wisdom, we need only look to something always with us: the breath. The breath is the perfect teacher of impermanence. It is in constant motion, never static, always arising and passing away. Every inhalation is a beginning, a birth, a pause. Every exhalation is an ending, a letting go, a death that makes space for the next inhalation to arise. You cannot hold the breath. If you try to cling to it, you suffocate. To live is to participate in this endless rhythm of arising and dissolving. So now, as you lie here, bring your gentle attention to the breath. Notice the journey of one full inhalation, from the very first stir of air entering to its completion. Then notice the journey of one full exhalation, all the way to the end. Feel the constant change, the flow that never stops. There is nothing here to hold on to. Simply rest in this rhythm, the same rhythm that animates every leaf, every tide, every star. This is the pulse of the universe, and it is moving within you in every moment. You can extend this practice beyond the breath to the events of your day. As you continue to breathe gently, allow moments from the day to drift through your mind. A conversation, a meal, a moment of frustration, a moment of ease. See each memory as a cloud that once appeared in the sky of your awareness. With each inhalation, acknowledge the moment. With each exhalation, let it go, not erasing it, not pushing it away, simply recognizing that its time is over, that it has passed. Every moment arises, every moment passes. This is the dance of impermanence. This is life. Let each exhale be more than just the release of air. Let it be a gentle loosening of your grip on the past. Every breath out is a small act of surrender, a soft opening of the hand that clutches. This practice is especially powerful for both the pleasant moments that your mind longs to cling to and the unpleasant moments it struggles to resist. With each breath out, you are training the mind in the graceful art of letting go. You are learning to be like the vast open sky, untouched, unburdened, allowing all the clouds of experience to drift through, without needing to capture or hold a single one. This is freedom. This is peace. This is the wisdom that allows you to rest deeply, at ease with the ever-changing, ever-flowing nature of life. And as we begin to accept this truth of impermanence, we are gently led to an even more subtle and profound insight. So often we feel overwhelmed by our own minds. The sheer flood of thoughts, memories, plans, and worries can feel like a dense forest, crowding us in, suffocating us. We experience our thoughts as heavy, solid, and undeniable. And more than this, we experience them as me. We believe we are the thinker of the thoughts, the voice in the head, the constant commentator narrating our days. And yet, Zen practice invites us to question this, to look not only at the noise, but for the silence that holds the noise, to look not only at the content, but for the space that allows the content to appear. This is the gateway to the liberating wisdom of emptiness. There is a story of a young apprentice named Ren, who longed to study the art of calligraphy under a great Zen master. His master gave him a single, simple task: to practice drawing the inenso, the Zen circle painted in a single fluid brushstroke. In Zen, the inenso symbolizes the universe, enlightenment, the void, and the deep truth of all things. Ren practiced for months. He sat at his desk for hours each day, his brush in hand, his ink carefully prepared. But each circle he drew filled him with frustration. He was utterly focused on the black ink, on the weight of the brush, on the line itself. He tried to control every detail, to make each circle perfectly round, perfectly smooth, perfectly solid. But the harder he tried, the worse they became. His circles were heavy, stiff, lifeless. They looked less like symbols of the universe, and more like cages, tight, closed, suffocating. One day, the master came to watch him practice. He immediately noticed the tension in Ren's shoulders, the tightness of his grip on the brush, the fierce concentration in his brow. The master said nothing at first. Then he picked up a fresh piece of paper and laid it gently on the table. He did not reach for a brush. He simply sat, gazing at the wide, clean expanse of white. Finally, he spoke. "Ren, you are trying to draw a circle. All your attention is on what you are adding. The ink, the line, the stroke, but you are ignoring what is already here." He gestured toward the page. "This white space is not nothing. It is not a void to be filled. It is a living space, a presence. The ink does not create the circle. The ink only reveals the circle that is already possible within this space. The circle is not made only of the line. It is made equally of the paper inside it, and the paper outside it. Without emptiness, there is no form. The ink gives it shape, but the space gives it life. Stop trying to paint a thing. Learn instead to feel the space. The space is not your enemy. It is your partner." Ren was puzzled, but he trusted his master. For many days, he set down his brush. He stopped practicing the stroke altogether. Instead, he sat before the blank page in silence. He breathed. He waited. He allowed himself to feel the vast, quiet potential in the white expanse. Slowly, he began to sense it, not as emptiness to be conquered, but as presence, as possibility, as life itself. When at last he picked up his brush again, something had shifted. His hand was no longer tense. His mind was no longer fixed on perfection. With one deep, centered breath, he dipped the brush into the ink and allowed the circle to emerge, not forced, not controlled, but flowing naturally out of the silence. The Ien So he painted was not flawless, but it was alive. The stroke was fluid, effortless, alive. For the first time, Ren's circle was not a cage, but a window into the vastness, a symbol not of confinement, but of freedom. The apprentice's discovery is a profound metaphor for the practice of meditation and the discovery of inner peace. Our thoughts, our worries, our emotions, these are the ink strokes, and usually we are completely identified with them. We believe they are solid and real. We believe they define who we are, and so we feel crowded, trapped, and overwhelmed by their constant movement. The wisdom of shunyata, or emptiness, is the master's reminder to feel the space. Emptiness, in this sense, does not mean bleak nothingness. It does not mean that life is meaningless. Rather, it points to the truth that our thoughts and feelings are empty of independent existence. They are like the ink strokes. They cannot exist without the paper beneath them. They rise and fall only within the silent, spacious consciousness in which they appear. This consciousness, this awareness, is like the empty page. It is always here, silent, vast, unchanging, beneath and around the noise of our thinking. And just as the page is never truly harmed by the marks of ink upon it, awareness is never disturbed by the content of the mind. Peace does not come from trying to erase thoughts, from wiping the page clean. Peace comes from shifting our attention, our very sense of identity, from the ink strokes of thought to the open paper of awareness itself. When we recognize that we are not the fleeting thoughts, but the space in which they happen, a profound freedom arises. We are no longer trapped inside the black circles of our worries. We are the page, spacious, still, and able to hold everything with ease. You can experience this directly through practice. Begin by becoming aware of the sounds around you, the hum of a fan, the whisper of wind, the creak of a floorboard, perhaps even the sound of your own breath. These sounds are like strokes of ink. Now shift your attention and notice not just the sounds, but the silence that allows them to be heard. Sense the vast, quiet field in which sound appears and disappears. That silence is always here. You do not need to create it. You need only notice. Then, turn the same form of listening inward. Become aware of your thoughts as they rise, like inner sounds, like images on a screen. They are the content. But can you also become aware of the silence behind them, the still awareness that watches without judgment? Notice that between one thought ending and the next beginning, there is a tiny gap, a moment of pure stillness. Rest there, even for an instant. This is not about lengthening the gaps or forcing the mind to stop. It is simply about becoming more interested in the space than in the furniture within it. You might ask yourself gently, what is it that is aware of this thought? Do not look for a verbal answer. Instead, feel into the quiet, knowing presence that is here before the thought, during the thought, and after the thought has gone. This presence is your true nature. It is spacious, peaceful, free. By shifting your identity from the restless content to the timeless awareness that holds it all, you find an unshakable peace. A peace not dependent on your mind being silent, but a peace that is already here, like the page that remains beneath every mark. And when we learn to see the vast empty space of awareness, we realize something even deeper. It is not a cold void. It is a space of infinite potential. It is a space that can hold not only our thoughts and worries, but also a boundless capacity for warmth, kindness, and connection. So often, when we suffer, our awareness contracts. We shrink into the small, lonely room of our problems. Our hearts, in their attempt to shield us from further hurt, grow hard and closed. At night, this sense of separation can feel especially acute, like a chill pressing in from all sides. But the wisdom of the Buddhist path reminds us that the healing of isolation is found in compassion. The heart of emptiness is not emptiness at all. It is love. It is the recognition that we are not separate, that we are all threads of the same great fabric, that to open to another is to open more deeply to ourselves. Compassion is not weakness. It is strength. An open heart is a peaceful heart. And when we extend compassion to ourselves first, and then to all beings, we dissolve the walls of loneliness and discover the vast, tender spaciousness that is our true home. There was once a monk named Deva, who lived in a monastery perched high on a cliffside, overlooking a wide and flowing river. Deva was a man of great discipline and formidable intellect. He knew the scriptures word for word, their meaning sharp in his mind. His meditation was strong, unwavering, concentrated like the blade of a sword. But his heart was like stone. From his lofty vantage point, he often looked down upon the villagers who lived along the riverbanks, their noisy markets, their laughter, their quarrels, their struggles to feed their families. All of it seemed to him a distraction, the mark of spiritual immaturity. To Deva, they were entangled in worldly attachments, while he, above them, walked the pure, solitary path. He believed enlightenment was about rising above the messiness of the world, cutting ties, transcending suffering, becoming untouchable. Then, one year, the rains did not come. A terrible drought spread across the valley. The great river, once a roaring lifeline, shrank day by day, retreating until only cracked plains of mud stretched where water once flowed. Life in the valley began to wither. The crops failed. The animals grew thin. The villagers despaired. From his monastery, Deva watched, detached. His mind repeated, "This is the nature of suffering. This is impermanence. This has nothing to do with me." One afternoon, walking along the exposed riverbed, he came across a small, shallow pool of muddy water, and in it, gasping weakly, flapping in desperation, was a single fish. Its scales were coated in mud, its gills opening and closing in frantic search of air, its life force slipping away. Deva's first thought was the familiar voice of detachment. This is its karma. This is impermanence. All things must pass. He turned to walk on, but then he paused. He looked again, and something shifted. As he gazed at the fish, a sharp pang rose in his own chest. He felt the fish's thirst, as though it were his own. He felt its fear, its desperate struggle mirrored his own quiet struggle for peace. In the fragile body of that little creature, he saw himself. And in that moment, the stone wall around his heart cracked. Without thinking further, he waded into the mud, cupped his hands gently beneath the fish, and carried it carefully down the long stretch of riverbed until he reached the main channel, where water still flowed. There, he bent low and released it. He watched as it slipped from his palms into the cool depths, its body stirring with renewed life as it swam away. Something in Diva's heart broke open, and at the same time something healed. He realized in that instant that the river was not just water flowing through the valley. The river was life itself, flowing through him, through the fish, through the villagers, through all beings. Their suffering was not separate from his. It was a shared current. He walked back to his monastery, no longer a man who stood above the world, but one who was deeply, tenderly a part of it. From that day forward, his meditation was no longer cold, sharp discipline. It was warm, expansive presence. It was the practice of holding the whole world in his heart. Diva's awakening by the river is the essence of karusa, compassion. It is the moment we stop being a detached observer of suffering and allow ourselves to feel our shared humanity. Compassion is not pity, which looks down from a distance. Compassion is empathy, the willingness to feel with another, to recognize our shared vulnerability, and to wish sincerely that all beings be free from suffering. And compassion has a close companion, metta, loving kindness. If compassion is the wish that beings be free from suffering, then loving kindness is the wish that beings be happy and well. Together, they are the two wings of the bird of awakening. Wisdom and intellect are one wing, but without the other wing of compassion, the bird cannot fly. This practice of compassion and kindness is also the most powerful antidote to the states of mind that keep us awake at night: fear, anger, judgment, loneliness. A heart that is hard and critical toward itself or others is tense and contracted. A heart that radiates kindness is soft, open, and at rest. And importantly, compassion must begin with ourselves. We cannot pour water from an empty well. Many of us find it easier to feel compassion for a suffering animal or for a friend in pain than for ourselves. Yet when we meet our own struggles, our mistakes, our anxieties, our exhaustion, with harshness, we deepen our suffering. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is not weakness. It is the fertile soil from which all true growth and kindness arise. The practice of self-compassion is the radical act of turning the warmth of the heart inward. It is learning to hold our own pain, our own struggles, with the same tenderness we would offer to a dear friend or a loved child. When we begin to do this, when we learn to be a true friend to ourselves, the feeling of anxious isolation starts to soften. The walls around the heart grow thinner. A deep and steady peace begins to take root. To water the seeds of compassion in your own heart, you can practice a simple loving kindness meditation as you prepare for sleep. This practice does not demand that you feel a certain way. It is not about forcing emotion. It is about setting a gentle intention. The sincerity of the wish is what matters. Find a comfortable position. If it feels natural, place a hand over the center of your chest. Let this physical gesture remind you of tenderness, of care. Begin with yourself. Slowly, silently repeat these phrases in your mind, letting them be like soft prayers, like ripples spreading across a still pond. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Let the words be gentle. You do not need to believe them fully. You do not need to summon emotion. You are simply planting seeds in the soil of your heart. If resistance arises, if feelings of unworthiness appear, meet those too with kindness. Offer compassion even to the part of you that struggles to accept compassion. Stay with this for a few moments, offering yourself this unconditional goodwill. Then, when you are ready, bring to mind someone you love easily, a dear friend, a family member, even a beloved pet. Picture them clearly in your mind, resting safely, smiling. Now direct the same phrases toward them. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Let the warmth of your natural love carry these wishes like a gentle stream. From here, if it feels comfortable, you can expand the circle. Think of someone neutral in your life, perhaps a neighbor, a coworker, or a person you see often, but do not know well. Offer them the same kindness. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Then allow the circle to widen further, to the people in your home, to your city, to your country. Finally, extend your wish outward to all beings everywhere, without exception, to every human, every animal, every living thing. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with ease. This practice gently dissolves the walls of separation. It connects you to the great current of shared humanity, to the universal wish for peace that lives in every heart. And it offers you a soft and gentle way to fall asleep, not wrapped in the cold blanket of worry, but in the boundless warmth of kindness. Pause here. Feel the quiet presence in the center of your chest. Let your breath be soft and easy. Allow your heart to feel open, spacious, and at rest. You are held in a vast web of kindness. You are not alone. And now, having opened the heart, we can turn toward the mind with a new sense of possibility. For often our inner world feels like a chaotic wilderness, a tangled jungle of thoughts and emotions over which we seem to have no control. In the vulnerable quiet of the night, we feel at the mercy of whatever worry or mood happens to arise. This helplessness itself becomes a source of anxiety. But the Buddha's teachings remind us of something liberating. We are not prisoners of our minds. We are their gardeners. We may not be able to control the weather. Storms will come. Dry seasons will arrive. And no matter how carefully we tend the soil, seeds of weeds will always blow in on the wind. But we absolutely have the power to tend the ground of our own mind. We have the power to nourish the plants we wish to grow, and to gently remove the weeds that choke the life from the garden. This is the practice of cultivating skillful states of mind. Your mind is a royal garden, vast, fertile, alive with possibility. In this garden, the unskillful states of mind, what the Buddha called a kusala, are the thorny weeds. These weeds are not bad in a moral sense, but they are unhelpful because they cause suffering for ourselves and for others. They are states like anger, resentment, jealousy, greed, worry, and anxiety. When we let them spread unchecked, they create a harsh and painful inner landscape, a tangle of thorns where it is difficult to rest. The skillful states of mind, or kusala, are the flowers and fruit trees. These are the qualities that bring nourishment and beauty, kindness, compassion, patience, generosity, gratitude, calm. They are called skillful because when they grow strong, they lead directly to peace, to joy, to well-being. And yet, so often we feel as though our inner gardens are hopelessly overrun with weeds. Fear and worry seem to sprout faster than anything else. Resentments appear like thistles pushing through the soil. We feel caught in an endless battle, pulling weeds one day only to see them return the next. But the wisdom of the gardener is different. A gardener knows not to despair. A gardener learns to recognize clearly what is a weed and what is a flower. The work is not to destroy or hate the weeds, but simply to stop feeding them, to stop giving them water and sunlight. And at the same time, the gardener gives care and nourishment to the plants they wish to see flourish. Your practice as a wise gardener of the mind is twofold. First, to withdraw your attention gently but firmly from the weeds. Second, to consciously and intentionally water the flowers. Let us begin with the first step, gently pulling a weed. As you lie here, notice if there is a persistent thought pattern active in your mind right now. Perhaps it is a worry about tomorrow. Perhaps it is a replay of something that happened today. Perhaps it is an old resentment. See this thought clearly as a thorny weed. It is not a truth. It is not who you are. It is simply a weed that, if fed, will grow and spread. You do not need to fight it. You do not need to hate it. Simply see it for what it is, and then make a conscious choice not to water it. You might say quietly to yourself, "This is not a helpful path for my mind to take right now. I will not follow it." And if the thought returns, as it surely will, you repeat the gesture again and again, as often as needed. Just as a gardener pulls the same kind of weed many times over a season, you patiently and kindly guide your mind back. The second step, the more powerful one, is to water a flower. To do this, bring to mind something that represents a skillful state. One of the most accessible and transformative is gratitude. Gently scan through your day. Let a single small moment rise to the surface, a moment for which you can feel genuinely thankful. It does not need to be grand. Perhaps the taste of your morning coffee, the warmth of sunlight on your face, a smile from a stranger, the sound of laughter, or perhaps simply the comfort of lying here now in this bed, held by the quiet of the night. Hold this memory softly in your mind. Don't just think about it. Let yourself feel it. Notice how gratitude has a texture in the body, a warmth in the chest, a softening around the eyes, a gentle upward curve in the corners of the mouth. Let it spread. Let it linger. For a minute or two, water this seed of gratitude with your full attention. This is more than just distraction from your worries. It is transformation. It changes the very soil of your mind. It shifts you from a state of lack into a state of sufficiency, from restlessness into rest, from anxiety into ease. With every weed you choose not to water, with every flower you choose to nourish, you are shaping your inner garden. And slowly, gently, night after night, that garden becomes a place of beauty, a place of refuge, a place of peace. It is this tending of the inner garden that creates the rich, fertile soil from which a restful night's sleep can grow. You are the gardener. You carry within you the wisdom and the power to cultivate a sanctuary of deep peace in your own heart and mind. The journey we have taken so far, learning to observe the mind, to soften the heart, to tend the soil of inner being, leads us now to the central sanctuary of peace itself. So much of our inner turmoil arises from one simple fact: we are almost never fully here. Our minds are constantly living in one of two directions: pulled back into the past or projected forward into the future. We drift into the past, replaying conversations, reliving old wounds, dwelling on regrets, or we cast ourselves into the future, rehearsing challenges that have not yet come, worrying about what might go wrong, spinning webs of endless planning. And in all this time traveling, we miss the only place where life is actually happening, right here in this present moment. This wandering of the mind into past and future is the root of so much of our restlessness and anxiety. Zen practice offers a profound and simple refuge. It invites us to discover that the present moment, when we truly arrive in it, is a gateless gate, a direct doorway into the land of tranquility we have been seeking all along. There is a tale of a man who spent his entire life searching for the legendary gate of tranquility. The ancient scriptures said that beyond this gate lay a hidden kingdom where there was no suffering, no fear, no anxiety, only a perfect and unshakable peace. The man's search became his life's obsession. He pored over old maps. He sought out sages. He wandered to the farthest corners of the earth. He climbed jagged mountains, crossed scorching deserts, and sailed stormy seas. Always, he searched for the magnificent gate he imagined, carved of jade, inlaid with gold, standing proudly between two great peaks. Years became decades. His hair grew white, his body frail, his steps unsteady. Hope dwindled. At last, weary and heartsick, his travels brought him to a small, humble hut, perched on a quiet mountainside. Inside lived a hermit of great age, his face lined with kindness. The old traveler poured out his story, his lifelong quest, his endless searching, his failures. His voice trembled as he whispered, "I have spent my entire life seeking the gate of tranquility, and I have failed. Please, tell me where it is before I die." The hermit looked at him with eyes full of compassion. He said nothing at first, but gently gestured for the traveler to sit. With slow, mindful movements, he lit a small fire, boiled water, and prepared a pot of tea. He poured a steaming cup and placed it carefully into the old man's hands. "Tell me," the hermit said softly, "what do you feel in your hands right now?" The traveler, startled by the question, lowered his gaze. For the first time in years, he really noticed. "I feel the warmth of the cup," he said, his voice quiet with surprise. "Good," said the hermit, nodding. "And what do you hear?" The traveler tilted his head. He listened, really listened. "I hear the wind in the pine trees. I hear my own breath. I hear the gentle hiss of the steam." "And what do you see?" asked the hermit. The traveler's eyes followed the curling steam, rising from the cup, dancing in the sunlight, changing shape with each breath of wind. He stared, mesmerized, watching its delicate forms appear and dissolve. And in that simple watching, in that moment of feeling, listening, and seeing, his restless mind grew still. A peace unlike any he had ever known flooded through him. He looked up, his eyes wide, his heart suddenly light. The hermit smiled, a deep, knowing smile. "You have been searching the whole world for a great gate," the hermit said. "But the gate of tranquility is not a place you must arrive at. It has no walls, it has no doors, it has no locks. It is here wherever you are, whenever you step fully into this moment. It is always here. The feeling of the warm cup in your hands, that is the gate. The sound of the wind moving through the trees, that is the gate. This very breath you are taking, rising and falling in your body, this too is the gate. You have passed through it 1,000,000 times already on your journey, but the mind, always searching for the next mountain to climb, never noticed. The traveler's story is our story. We too search endlessly for peace, as if it were hidden somewhere in the future. We tell ourselves, I will rest when the bills are paid, when the relationship is fixed, when I finally achieve my goals, when I at last get a good night's sleep. We treat tranquility as a distant destination. But the most radical, liberating teaching of Zen is this: peace is not a destination. Peace is the beginning. It is the ground beneath your feet right now. It is the very nature of the present moment when it is not clouded by thoughts of past or future. The gateless gate is one of Zen's great paradoxes. How do you pass through a gate that does not exist? The answer is startlingly simple. You realize you have always been inside. The only thing keeping you from experiencing the peace of the present moment is the belief that it is elsewhere. The thinking mind is the map maker. It is always drawing paths, always charting courses away from here. But all of its maps lead away from the treasure. The treasure has always been here, beneath your feet, waiting for you to notice. When we let go of the maps, the stories, the striving, and simply arrive, here in the raw and immediate reality of this breath, this body, this moment, the gate disappears. There is no threshold to cross. We are already home. This is not complicated. In fact, it is the simplest thing in the world. It is the cool weight of the blanket on your skin. It is the gentle rhythm of breath moving in and out. It is the faint hum of silence in the room. In this simple, direct reality, when it is not tangled in thought, there is a profound, effortless peace. To practice walking through the gateless gate, you can use your senses as anchors, each one a doorway into presence. As you lie here, begin by opening your awareness to sound, not straining, not searching, just receiving. What do you hear? Perhaps the sound of your own breath, faint and steady. Perhaps a quiet hum from somewhere in the room. Perhaps the deep silence that underlies all sounds. Whatever is here, allow it to come and go in its own way. Let your awareness be like the open sky, vast and spacious, with sounds drifting through like passing birds. Now bring your awareness to touch. Notice the points of contact between your body and the bed. Feel the weight of the blankets gently pressing down, holding you. Can you sense the coolness of the air against your cheek, the subtle warmth within your chest or belly, the faint tingling of aliveness in your hands or feet? Rest your attention here, in this intimate world of pure sensation, without needing to name or explain. Just feel. Next, turn to the sense of smell. Without moving, notice. Is there a faint freshness in the air? The clean scent of pillowcase or sheets? Perhaps nothing distinct at all. That too is fine. What matters is not what you smell, but the gentle openness to whatever is here. Each time you notice the mind has wandered into a story of yesterday or tomorrow, see it for what it is, the old traveler consulting his map again. Smile at this habit. There is no need to fight it. Simply and kindly guide your attention back. Back to the sound of breath. Back to the weight of the blanket. Back to this simple, undeniable presence. This is the only gate you need. and you have already stepped through it, and it is always open. Welcome home. As we learn to rest in the open gate of the present moment, we begin to notice the patterns of our own minds with new clarity. Even when we are not lost in the past or the future, certain repetitive thoughts and feelings still arise again and again, like familiar melodies in a song. Some are gentle and pleasant, but others carry tones of fear, anxiety, or sorrow. At times we may feel trapped by these patterns, as though we are victims of some hidden inner force that dictates our moods and shapes our fears. This feeling of being stuck, of being bound by habits of mind, is a deep source of suffering. The wisdom of the Buddha offers a liberating perspective on this experience. It is the teaching of karma, a teaching often misunderstood, yet profoundly simple. Karma reminds us that we are not helpless prisoners of our minds, but active creators of our inner world. There is an old story of a boy who wandered high into the mountains and stumbled upon a vast circular valley, surrounded on all sides by towering cliffs of stone. He had never been there before. The valley was silent and immense, and a wave of fear and loneliness washed over him. Startled, he shouted into the emptiness, "I hate you!" And from all around, the cliffs shouted back, "I hate you." The boy Seb's eyes widened. His heart pounded. He thought, surely there was another cruel boy hiding in the rocks, mocking him. His anger rose. He clenched his fists and shouted louder, "You are a coward." And immediately the valley thundered back, "You are a coward." The more he yelled, the angrier the voice seemed to become. Insult after insult echoed back at him, until, terrified and in tears, he fled down the mountain and ran home. When he told his mother what had happened, that there was a horrible, angry boy living in the mountains who screamed cruel words at him, his mother, who was wise, simply smiled. "My son," she said softly, "that is not another boy. That is the valley of the echo. The valley holds no anger of its own. It only gives back what is shouted into it. What you heard was your own voice returning to you. Go back tomorrow. But this time, when you enter the valley, shout something different. Shout, 'I love you.'" The boy was doubtful, but he trusted his mother. So the next day he returned to the valley. His voice trembled at first, but he called out, "I love you." And from all around, the cliffs responded, "I love you, I love you." And 100 voices sang back to him, and his heart filled with wonder and joy. He had discovered the secret of the valley. He realized he was not the victim of its voice, he was its source. This story is a perfect illustration of karma. Karma is one of the most misunderstood teachings of the East. It is not a cosmic system of punishment and reward handed down by an external judge. It is simply the law of cause and effect, as natural and impersonal as the law of an echo. The valley is your mind. The words you shout are your intentions, your thoughts, your actions. The echo is the result, the quality of your inner world, the shape of your experience. The Buddha taught that the most crucial element of karma is intention. It is the seed of the mind, the will behind our actions, the flavor we pour into our thoughts. When we shout anger, resentment, fear, or self-pity into the valley of our own minds, those qualities echo back again and again. Each repetition strengthens the pattern, carving deeper channels in the soil of the mind. Habits form, neural pathways solidify, and soon it feels as if we are living in a hostile valley that we did not choose. But it is not a punishment. It is simply the nature of the mind, always echoing back what it is fed. The most beautiful and empowering part of this teaching is that it is never too late to change the echo. No matter how many times anger, worry, or self-criticism has reverberated in your valley, the next sound you send forth can be different. In any given moment, you have the power to shout something new. You can choose kindness. You can choose gratitude. You can choose patience. At first, the new shout may feel faint, almost drowned out by the old familiar chorus. The valley may still be filled with echoes of the past, but if you persist, if you continue to send out gentle, skillful intentions again and again, the resonance begins to shift. Slowly, steadily, the old painful echoes fade, and the new ones grow strong. This is the heart of karma. You are not the victim of your mental habits. You are their architect. To work skillfully with karma, as you prepare for rest, you can become the conscious creator of your own inner echo. The first step is to listen. Listen with mindful awareness. When you notice a recurring painful thought, perhaps a loop of worry or a refrain of self-criticism, your first job is not to fight it. Fighting the echo only stirs more noise. Your job is simply to recognize it for what it is, an old shout from the past returning. You might say softly to yourself, "Ah, this is the echo of worry. I know this sound." Or "This is the echo of fear. I have heard it before." That simple recognition creates space. You are no longer lost inside the echo. You are the one hearing it. The second step is to consciously introduce a new sound. This is not about arguing with the old echo or trying to force it away. It is about gently, intentionally adding something new. If the echo is worry, your new shout might be a phrase of trust. "In this moment, all is well," or "Whatever comes, I will meet it with strength." If the echo is self-criticism, your new shout can be an act of self-compassion. Placing a hand gently on your heart, you whisper, "May I be kind to myself." If the echo is resentment toward another, you might send forth a quiet wish for their peace. May you be at ease. This practice is not about pretending you don't feel what you feel. It is not denial. It is mental hygiene, the gentle clearing of weeds from your garden, the conscious choosing of the echoes you want to live with. Every new intention you plant sends out a ripple, and those ripples return as the quality of your own inner world. Tonight, you can begin a new echo by introducing a single phrase of kindness, a single breath of trust, a single spark of compassion. You plant the seeds for a peaceful tomorrow. Let's pause here for a moment. Feel the freshness of this present breath. It is unburdened by the echoes of the past. With each inhalation, you draw in clarity and possibility. With each exhalation, you release the old stories, the echoes that no longer serve you. You are here. You are free to begin anew. And as you grow more aware of this power, the power to shape the echoes of your mind, you come to an even deeper realization. Not only do our intentions create echoes, but our very perceptions create the reality in which we live. The fears that keep us awake at night often feel as solid as stone. They loom in the mind like shadowy beasts, lurking in the corners of the room. Anxiety can seem like a predator crouching just beyond the light, threatening our safety, demanding our vigilance. Yet, Zen wisdom whispers, "These beasts are not what they seem. They are shapes cast by the mind itself, shadows mistaken for monsters. When we look more closely, when we shine the light of awareness directly upon them, their solidity begins to dissolve. We often believe our feelings are direct reports on reality itself, as if the mind were a flawless mirror reflecting the world exactly as it is. But the teachings of Zen invite us to look closer. Our experience of the world is not the world itself. It is a picture of the world painted stroke by stroke with the brush of our own mind. And if we are the painter, then we hold more power than we realize. There is a tale of a remote mountain village haunted for generations by the legend of a fearsome tiger. No one had ever seen this tiger, yet everyone was certain it lurked nearby. Children were warned not to wander after dark. Farmers whispered of hearing its growl in the wind. The fear was so deep that even the rustling of bamboo at night would send shivers through the village. This collective terror was fed by a painting that hung in the temple. Centuries earlier, a Zen master, famed for his lifelike art, had painted a magnificent tiger emerging from the bamboo. The eyes seemed alive, the muscles taut, the fur rippling with motion. It was so realistic that all who looked upon it felt a primal dread rise in their chest. Among the villagers, one man, Kuji, was especially afflicted. The image of the tiger lived in his mind day and night. When he lay down to sleep, he swore he could hear the beast breathing outside his window. He felt certain he could smell its musky scent in the air. Though no paw had ever touched the earth of the village, Kuji's heart lived in constant fear of being devoured. At last, desperate and exhausted, he went to the temple to seek help. Bowing low before the resident Zen master, his voice trembled. "Master, I cannot go on like this. The tiger in the painting haunts me. I know it is real. I feel its presence. I fear it will leap from the scroll and destroy me and my family." The master listened quietly. He did not laugh. He did not scold. He did not tell Kuji. His fear was silly. He understood that for Kuji, the tiger was entirely real. Instead, the master opened a cabinet and withdrew a fine paintbrush and a small pot of black ink. Handing them gently to Kuji, he said, "You are right. The tiger is powerful, but you have forgotten one thing. You have forgotten who holds the brush." He gestured toward the painting. The same mind that painted the tiger is the mind that now trembles before it. The power that creates fear is the very same power that can create safety. Go home. Tonight, when the fear is greatest, when you feel the tiger Sep's eyes upon you, take this brush, dip it in the ink, and paint a strong cage around it. Kuji was bewildered, but his despair gave him courage. That night, the terror rose again. As shadows deepened, he swore he heard a low growl vibrating from the scroll itself. His heart raced. His hands shook. But then he remembered the master's words. With trembling fingers, he lit a candle, dipped the brush into the ink, and stepped closer to the painting. He looked into the tiger's fierce eyes, and with a surge of determination, he drew the first black bar of a cage, then another, then another. Slowly, steadily, he painted until the bars enclosed the great beast. The moment he finished the final line, a great silence fell over the room. The presence that had stalked him for years vanished. The tiger was still there, still magnificent, still powerful, but no longer menacing. It was contained. A wave of relief washed through Kuji Sep's body. His breath came freely for the first time in years, and in that moment he understood the master's steps lesson. The fear was never in the tiger. The fear was in his mind's painting of the tiger. And just as the mind had created a threat, so too could it create safety. The fear was a creation of the mind, and the mind also carried within it the tools for its own liberation. This story shines light on one of the deepest teachings of Buddhism, that our experience of reality is shaped by the mind. This does not mean the external world is an illusion, or that it does not exist. The world is real, but our suffering or our peace does not arise directly from the world. It arises from the way the mind interprets, colors, and frames the world. The story it paints, the brushstrokes of thought it lays upon the canvas of our awareness. The tiger of our anxiety, the fear of failure, the worry about tomorrow. These are all paintings, convincing paintings. Yes, paintings so lifelike they stir our breath, tighten our chest, and send waves of adrenaline through the body. But still, they are paintings of the mind. When we are lost in fear, we are like Kuji before the scroll, certain the tiger is alive, solid, prowling, ready to pounce. The practice is to remember, we are also the painter. We hold the brush, we hold the ink. With the brush of awareness and the ink of wisdom, we can stop being passive victims of our mental creations and become active participants in how we frame our experience. We can paint a cage. The cage is not about denial or suppression. It is not about locking away what we feel. It is about offering context, clarity, and wisdom. It is drawing a line between the raw sensation of fear and the ultimate truth of our being. It is creating a safe space where the tiger can exist without terrorizing the entire kingdom of the heart. To practice painting a cage around your own tigers of fear, you can use a simple 3-step process whenever strong worry or anxiety arises. Step 1. Acknowledge the tiger. Do not fight the feeling or try to shove it away. Turn toward it with gentle mindfulness and name it. This is fear. This is anxiety. This is what it feels like in my body right now. Acknowledgement softens resistance. It allows you to breathe. Step 2. Remember the painter. Gently remind yourself that this fear, however powerful, is being generated by the mind's painting. My mind is creating a picture of the future right now. Or this is a thought story, not a present moment reality. This reminder creates crucial space. You are not the tiger. You are the one who sees the tiger. Step 3. Paint the cage. Consciously apply a frame of wisdom around the fear. The cage may take many forms. It may be the cage of impermanence. This is intense, but it is not forever. It will pass. It may be the cage of self-compassion. It's okay to feel afraid. I can be kind to myself right now. Or it may be the cage of perspective. What is actually true in this very moment, here in my bed, outside of the story? By painting the cage, you do not destroy the tiger. You simply place it in its proper context. It is no longer the ruler of your inner world. It becomes one shape among many, contained within the greater wisdom of your awareness. And in that containment, peace becomes possible, even while fear is still visible. As we learn that we are both the source of the echo and the painter of the tiger, we may still encounter another deep and aching feeling, loneliness, for in the quiet hours of night, the world can feel vast and empty. We may feel like small, fragile selves drifting in a sea of darkness, surrounded by our fears. And so the final wisdom of this part of our journey is the ultimate antidote to separation. It is the teaching that dissolves the walls of loneliness and reveals the truth of our belonging. It is the beautiful and profound vision of interconnectedness, the realization that the sense of being a separate, isolated self is the greatest illusion of all. In the ancient scriptures, this truth is described with a magnificent image known as Indra's jewel net. Imagine, if you will, a vast cosmic net stretching endlessly in every direction beyond horizon, beyond imagination. At each point where the threads of this infinite web cross, there rests a perfect, brilliant jewel. Each jewel shines with countless facets, clear and polished like crystal. And within every jewel, if you gaze closely, you can see reflected the light of every other jewel in the net. Each reflection contains all the others, and within each of those reflections are yet more reflections, continuing on forever. In this vision, no jewel exists by itself. None shine alone. Each jewel contains the whole, and the whole is present in each jewel. This jewel net of Indra is one of the most profound metaphors for reality itself. Each of us, each being, each moment, each breath is one of these jewels. On the surface, we may appear separate, just as each jewel rests in its own place on the net. But in truth, we are inextricably connected, sustained and defined by our relationship to all the others. You are not a sealed fortress. You are a meeting place of the universe. Your in-breath is possible only because of trees, grasses, plankton, and the work of countless living things. The water in your body was once a drifting cloud, a mountain stream, an ocean current. The food that nourishes you carries the warmth of the sun and the minerals of the soil. The very language you use to think was shaped by generations before you, by poets, ancestors, strangers you will never know. Look deeply, and you cannot find a single element within you that is separate from the vast whole. The lonely, isolated ego is an illusion, a trick of perception. The reality is that you are held in a shimmering web of life. You are never alone. And this realization is the foundation of compassion. When we know that the other jewels are reflected within us, and that we are reflected within them, it becomes impossible to wish harm without harming ourselves. Their joy resonates within us. Our peace shines back into them. The illusion of separation dissolves, and with it, the cold ache of loneliness gives way to the warm comfort of belonging. To feel this truth in your own being, you can practice a meditation of deep looking. As you lie here, bring awareness to your breath. Notice the air moving in and out. Remember, this air is not yours. It belongs to the great shared atmosphere of the earth. The very molecules entering your lungs may once have been part of a tree in a rainforest, a wave cresting in the sea, or even the breath of someone you love. With every inhalation, you are in silent, intimate communion with all of life. Now bring awareness to your body. Feel its weight, its warmth. See that this body is not a separate thing. It is made entirely of non-body elements: food, water, light, earth. It is a temporary, miraculous gathering of the cosmos. Your parents and ancestors are present in every cell, their stories woven into your DNA. The stars themselves shine in the minerals of your bones. You are not apart from the universe. You are the universe, briefly gathered in this human form. Next, let your mind rest on someone you love. Feel the invisible thread of connection between your jewel and theirs. Notice how their happiness warms you, how their pain touches you. This thread is real, even across distance. Now expand this vision outward. Picture all the people in your town, each one a shining jewel. See the people across your country, across the entire world, each breathing the same air, each carried by the same earth, each dreaming their own dreams. Billions of jewels, each reflecting and sustaining the others. And there you are, shining in the great net, a jewel among jewels, your light inseparable from the light of all. You are held. You have always been held. We are supported by all the other threads. Your light is a reflection of all the other lights, and their light is a reflection of yours. List now in this feeling of belonging. You are not a lonely fragment. You are a vital, beautiful, and inseparable part of the whole miraculous web of existence. And now, having found our way back to the simple, undeniable reality of the present moment, we can take one final liberating step. We can begin to loosen our grip on the heaviest burden we carry of all, the story of me. All night long, our minds can be preoccupied with this character we call me. We worry about its safety. We defend its reputation. We regret its past mistakes. We project its future with endless plans and fears. This ongoing project of constructing, polishing, and protecting the sense of self is a full-time job, and it is utterly exhausting. The wisdom of Zen offers the ultimate rest, the permission to resign from this job, at least for tonight. The realization that the self we labor over is not as solid, not as fixed, not as real as it appears. There is an old story of a great actor, renowned across the land for his role as a king. For years he played the part with such passion and mastery that audiences rose to their feet in thunderous applause. But as time went on, something strange occurred. He began to forget that he was acting. He slipped so deeply into the role that he convinced himself he truly was the king. He wore the heavy velvet robes and the golden crown even after the curtain had fallen. He spoke to his family in a commanding, regal tone. He paced at night, worrying about the fate of his kingdom, which in truth was nothing more than a painted backdrop on a wooden stage. The weight of the crown gave him headaches. The velvet robes were suffocating in the heat. The constant need to appear royal, dignified, and unshakable was a terrible strain. He was no longer a free man. He was a prisoner of his own role. One afternoon, while walking through a village in his full costume, he noticed a young child staring at him with wide eyes. The child had never been to a theater and had no concept of kings. With innocent curiosity, he tugged on the actor Sip's sleeve and asked, "Mister, why are you wearing such funny clothes? And why do you look so sad?" The question pierced the actor's delusion, like sunlight breaking through clouds. He looked down at the heavy robes, at the ridiculous crown pressing into his skull. He saw the absurdity of his burden, and then he laughed. It was not a shallow laugh, it was a laugh of profound relief. He was not a king, he was simply an actor. He had a name, a family, a life outside the stage. The kingdom's problems were not his to solve. The endless weight of dignity was not his to carry. That evening, for the first time in years, he went home, laid aside the crown and robes, and sat down for a simple meal with his family. The food tasted sweeter. The air felt lighter. He was free. This story is a mirror for the Buddhist teaching of anatta, not self. Like the actor, we all forget we are playing roles. We wear the heavy costumes of parent, professional, student, friend. We take on the subtler costumes too. The role of the competent one, the strong one, the anxious one, the broken one. We wear them so tightly that we forget they are not who we are. They are just roles, just costumes, just stories. The truth is lighter, freer, more spacious than any identity we cling to. The anxious one, the successful one, the not good enough one, the one who always has to keep it all together. We mistake these roles, these costumes, for who we truly are. We cling to them as if they were our essence. But this constructed identity, this story of me, is what Buddhism calls the ego, and carrying it is a heavy, ceaseless burden. We polish and defend this character endlessly. We worry about how it is perceived. We feel threatened whenever its story is challenged. And at night, this burden often grows loud, manifesting as restless review of the day's performance, as deep anxiety about the future of our character. The teaching of not self is like the innocent child tugging at the actor's sleeve. It is an invitation to look directly at our experience and ask, who am I, really, beneath this costume? When we look closely, what seemed to be a solid, unchanging self is revealed as something far lighter and more fluid, just a collection of shifting processes. Body, sensations, thoughts, memories, moods. There is no permanent king in the castle, no unshakable identity etched in stone. And this is the deepest liberation. If you are not your story, then you are not defined by past mistakes. If you are not your anxiety, then you are not doomed to live as the anxious one. These are roles, costumes you have worn for a time, and just for tonight, you are free to take them off. You can set aside the exhausting project of being you. You can rest as the simple, quiet awareness that remains when all roles are laid down. To practice this profound act of unburdening, begin by noticing the identities you are carrying right now. Perhaps you say softly to yourself, "Tonight, I am wearing the costume of someone worried about work," or "I am wearing the costume of someone who feels unwell." See these not as ultimate truths, but as temporary garments. Acknowledge them with kindness. Then, in the gentle theater of your imagination, perform a simple ritual of release. Picture yourself unbuttoning the heavy coat of the warrior and letting it slip from your shoulders to the ground. Imagine lifting the tight helmet of the planner and setting it aside. Lay down the shield of having it all together. One by one, let the costumes fall. One by one, let the roles go. And then ask what is left. Not as an idea, not as a concept, but as a direct felt sense. What remains when you are not playing any role? You may notice a quiet presence, a simple awareness, a vast and gentle spaciousness. This is closer to your true nature than any story you could talk about yourself. Just for tonight, you need not be anyone. You need not solve, manage, or defend the story of your life. The play can wait until morning. For now, in the quiet darkness, you are free, simply to be. And here, at the edge of self and story, we come to the final doorway to deep and lasting peace, the teaching that underpins all others. the graceful act of letting go. It is the wisdom of surrender. In a world that prizes control, striving, and determination, surrender may sound like weakness or defeat, but in Zen, surrender is the highest expression of strength, wisdom, and trust. It is the recognition that life's greatest gifts, sleep, love, peace, cannot be forced or seized. They can only be received. Surrender is the courage to unclench the fist of control and rest with open hands. It is the wisdom of leaning back into the arms of existence itself. It is trust that the ground will hold you, that the breath will carry you, that the night will cradle you into rest. Imagine a person who has never encountered water before, standing at the edge of a calm, clear lake. Their heart races as they gaze at the peaceful surface, knowing they want to learn how to float, to let the water support them. Their teacher stands beside them, ready to guide them. With a deep breath, the person steps tentatively into the lake. Instantly, their body stiffens with fear, every muscle tensing as their instincts scream to fight. The water is unfamiliar, dangerous in their mind. Their muscles tighten further. Their body wavers as panic sets in. They desperately kick their legs, paddle their arms, and strain their neck to keep their head above the surface. But in doing so, they only begin to sink deeper. The more they fight, the more the water pulls them down. They gasp for air, struggling against the weight of their own body, but it feels impossible to stay afloat. Exhausted, desperate for help, they look to their teacher, hoping for a lifeline. The teacher does not give them a complicated explanation or offer a new technique. The teacher simply says, "Stop trying. The struggle is what is sinking you. The water knows how to hold you. You have to trust it. Lie back, take a breath, and let go. Let the water do the work." These words feel almost impossible to follow. Every survival instinct screams against it. How could letting go possibly work? How could stopping the struggle allow them to stay afloat? But after a few moments of gasping for air and realizing they have no other option, they take a deep breath. They lie back gently, their mind racing with fear. Yet they try. For one terrifying second, they let go of all their effort, surrendering every muscle, every thought. The tension in their neck, their shoulders, their arms, and legs melts away. And in that instant, something miraculous happens. The water holds them. They are floating. It's a moment of realization. Floating isn't something you force or make happen. It's not an act of doing. It's the natural result of not doing. It is a delicate balance between the body and the water. It requires complete surrender, trust, and letting go. In the water, there is no fight, no resistance. Only the gentle support of the lake beneath them, holding them up effortlessly. Now, consider our relationship with sleep. It's much the same as our relationship with the water. When we experience anxiety, stress, or an overactive mind, it is as though we are thrashing about in the water. We are trying to control the process of sleep, desperately holding ourselves up, convinced that if we let go, we will sink into the darkness. The harder we struggle, the less we float. We are fighting against the very thing that is meant to support us. The state of frantic energy, tension, and worry is akin to that first person in the water, fighting to stay afloat. We may believe that if we stop fighting, we will drown. But sleep, like the water, is a natural force. It knows how to support us, how to heal us, and how to restore us. Just as the water holds us when we trust it, sleep holds us when we let go. All the practices we've discussed tonight, from observing our thoughts to opening our hearts, are ways to stop the struggle. They help us release the tension we are holding, so we can discover that we are already being held. We are not alone in the darkness. We are supported, just like the person in the lake who finally let go and allowed the water to hold them. Sleep is not something we can force. It's a natural rhythm, like the ebb and flow of the tides, the cycle of day and night. Our bodies know how to find rest. All we need to do is trust it. Trust that our body knows what it needs and that it can guide us toward rest. It's a deep trust in ourselves and in the process of life. It's surrendering the need to control everything, even the process of falling asleep. It's letting go of the ego's belief that it must be in control, even over something as natural as rest. Surrender does not mean giving up. It's not about defeat, it's about giving over, releasing control, and trusting something greater than our own anxious thoughts. It's allowing ourselves to be held, supported, and restored. To truly surrender, we must be willing to stop the cycle of constant doing and simply be. Now, let us take this final step in our journey of surrender. There are no more techniques, no more practices to follow. The time for doing is over. It's time to simply be. As you lie here, feel the weight of your body. Feel the surface beneath you, supporting you. Just like the water held the person in the lake, the bed holds you completely. You do not need to hold yourself up anymore. You are already held. With your next exhale, give permission to your body to relax. Allow the weight of your head and neck to sink into the pillow. Let go of any tension you are holding there. As you exhale again, feel your shoulders and arms grow heavy. Release the tension in your limbs, in your chest, in your entire body. You do not need to try. You only need to trust. Let the support of the surface beneath you take over. Let the water hold you. Let the bed hold you. And as you do, feel your body soften, your mind quiet, and sleep slowly begin to take you into its gentle embrace. Let your body become completely limp, as though every muscle is surrendering to the present moment. With each breath, release the weight of your torso, your back, your hips. Feel the tension dissolve as your body sinks deeper into the surface beneath you, settling, releasing. Let go of every ounce of weight with a final long exhalation. Feel the weight of your legs, your feet, your entire body melt away, becoming heavy, soft, and fully at rest. Now, let go of control over your breath. You do not need to manage it or direct it. Your body knows how to breathe, just as it knows how to rest. Simply allow the breath to breathe itself, rising and falling with ease, like the waves of a peaceful ocean. And finally, let go of your mind. Release the need to be the observer, the one who labels thoughts and analyzes feelings. Let go of all techniques, all effort, all striving. Let go of the pressure to get everything right. Trust that you have done enough. The seeds of peace have been planted, and now you must allow the garden to grow on its own, naturally and effortlessly. Simply lie back, surrounded by the vast, quiet darkness, and trust. Trust in the night. Trust in the silence. Trust in your own ability to experience deep, healing rest. You are the swimmer who has finally stopped struggling, floating serenely on the water. Now, allow the great, gentle lake of the night to hold you, to rock you, and to carry you effortlessly into the peaceful depths of sleep. As our journey through these gentle teachings comes to a quite close, reflect on how far we have come together. We began from the restless shores of a busy, thinking mind and traveled toward the still, deep waters of the heart. Along the way, we learned that our true struggle is not with the world, but with our own resistance to the ever-changing flow of life. We realized that beneath the passing clouds of our worries and thoughts, the vast, open sky of awareness is always peaceful, untouched by turbulence. We have learned to become wise gardeners of our minds, cultivating a space where beauty can grow from our imperfections. We have unburdened ourselves from the heavy costume of a fixed identity, shedding the layers of who we think we should be. And now we stand at the gateless gate of the present moment, realizing that the peace we have long sought is not found in a distant place or time, but in the simple and profound act of surrender. Remember, this path is not about adding something new to yourself. It is about letting go of the things that obscure the peace already within you. You are not building a fortress of calm. You are clearing away the debris of old habits and mistaken beliefs so that your own natural wellspring of quiet can flow freely. Imagine yourself as a weary traveler, carrying the heavy pack of worries, regrets, and responsibilities on your back. After a long and difficult journey, you have finally arrived home. This bed, this room, this present moment, this is your home. The journey is over for today, and you are safe. You can now gently set down your heavy pack, the one filled with all your concerns. You place it by the door, knowing that it will be there tomorrow if you need it. But for tonight, you are free of its weight. There is no final test to pass, no exam to take, no judgment to face. The only thing left to do is rest, to surrender completely to the sanctuary that you have arrived at. Allow this moment to be a profound act of trust. Trust in the seeds you have planted in the garden of your mind tonight. Trust that even a single moment of mindfulness, a single breath of kindness, a single thought of surrender has already begun its gentle work. Most of all, trust in the deep, innate wisdom of your own body. It knows how to heal, how to rest, and how to sleep. All it asks of you is a quiet, trusting mind, a mind that feels safe enough to let go. The practices we have shared with you were all designed for this one purpose, to create a state of inner safety, a truce in the civil war of the mind. It is through this peaceful surrender that your body can finally enter the deep, restorative rest it so desperately needs and deserves. Now, the work is complete. All that is left is to receive the gift of rest, to allow yourself to sink into the peaceful embrace of sleep. As we conclude, let us take a moment to reflect on the timeless Zen stories that remind us of the wisdom and simplicity of surrender. But the amount of pain we experience, my dear student, depends on the size of the container we place it in. When you are small, like the glass of water, the pain seems overwhelming, all-consuming, and bitter. It fills every part of you, and you are unable to see beyond it. But when you widen your perspective, like the vast lake, the same amount of pain dissolves, blending into the vastness of your life. It becomes just one part of the whole, something you can barely taste, something that no longer controls you. The pain you feel in your life is not the issue, it is how you carry it. If you focus solely on the salt, you will always taste bitterness, struggle, and discomfort. But if you learn to let go, to accept the fullness of life in all its dimensions, you will find that the salt becomes negligible. It may still exist, but it no longer has the power to overwhelm you. The young apprentice sat in silence, the lesson settling in his heart. He understood now that the suffering in his life, the complaints he had so often voiced, were not signs of an unjust world. They were simply part of the human experience, something that, when seen from a larger perspective, could be absorbed and understood without drowning in it. Life, like the salt, will always bring its challenges. But our task is not to eliminate the pain, for that is impossible. The task is to expand our hearts and minds so that we can hold our pain with grace, perspective, and acceptance. When we can do this, the bitterness of life becomes a flavor we can barely taste, a passing sensation in a vast ocean of experience. The master turned to his student once more, his eyes full of compassion and wisdom. You see, my dear student, life will always bring its share of suffering, just as the salt is always present in the water. But the key to peace lies not in fighting the salt, but in expanding your heart to embrace the vastness of life, to accept both the sweet and the bitter, the calm and the storm, with the same open hands. Only then will you find true peace. The apprentice, now silent, gazed out over the serene lake, the lesson settling deep within. The water, still and pure, mirrored the sky above, and in that moment he understood. The struggle was not with the pain itself, but with his resistance to it, and in surrendering that resistance, he could find freedom. The salt was just salt. It was how he chose to hold it that made all the difference. But over time, a young creature began to question this way of life. Unlike the others who clung to the stones with all their might, she often wondered why they all lived in such a constant state of tension, holding on so desperately to the riverbed. Why must we cling to the rocks? She asked her elders. What if we let go? What if we allowed ourselves to be carried by the river instead of fighting it? The older creatures laughed at her naive question, their voices tinged with a mixture of affection and mild disapproval. You don't understand, they said. The river's current is powerful and unpredictable. If you let go, it will sweep you away. The river is not a place to surrender. It is a place to fight for survival. But the young creature couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the river than just the struggle. So one day, after days of watching and wondering, she made a decision. She let go of the rock she had been holding onto and allowed herself to be carried by the gentle flow of the river. At first, she was filled with fear. The current moved beneath her like a whispering giant, and the water seemed so vast, so overwhelming. She wanted to reach out and grab something to steady herself, but instead, she let herself relax, floating with the flow. The fear that had gripped her began to dissipate as she experienced the current in a way she had never known. The water was not a force of destruction, but one of gentle movement, a rhythm that guided her rather than fought against her. As the river carried her further along, she discovered that the current, though strong, was not as threatening as she had imagined. Instead of feeling like a victim of the river, she felt in harmony with it, as though she had become part of its eternal flow. The rocks and roots that once seemed so necessary for survival were now distant memories, objects of her past struggle. After some time, the young creature arrived at a place where the river widened, and the waters were still deep and serene. The current there was gentle, like the soft embrace of the world itself. The creature floated in this peaceful space, feeling more alive and present than ever before. She realized that by letting go, she had found a profound freedom. She was no longer at odds with the river. She had learned to trust it. Soon, the elders noticed that the young creature was no longer clinging to the rocks. Instead, she was floating effortlessly, moving with the current, and they were curious. What happened? They asked. How did you find the courage to let go? The young creature smiled and replied, I found that the river is not something to fear. It is a place of flow, of peace, of life itself. When I stopped fighting, I began to see that the river could guide me rather than harm me. All it took was trust. The elders listened closely, their faces softening with realization. Perhaps there was something more to the river than they had known. Perhaps, in their constant clinging, they had missed the beauty of simply allowing themselves to be carried. In time, the entire village began to let go, to trust the river's current. One by one, each creature released their grip on the rocks and allowed the river to carry them peacefully, safely, and with a new sense of connection to the flow of life. They learned that true survival did not come from clinging to what they knew, but from trusting the current that had always been with them. The crystal river, which at once seemed like a dangerous force, became a symbol of surrender and trust. It carried them all in its gentle embrace, and in doing so, it showed them that life's greatest lessons often lie, not in resisting, but in yielding. And so, the young creature's question echoed through the village for generations to come. Why must we cling? Why not trust the current? And in the answer, they found the wisdom of the river, the wisdom of letting go. The elders, with their long years of experience, would warn, the current is dangerous. It will sweep you away to places unknown. Safety lies in staying exactly where you are. Their voices carried the weight of their convictions. The years spent clinging to the rocks, fearful of the unseen forces beneath the river's surface. Yet, one small creature grew weary of the endless grasping, the daily struggle to hold on to familiar stones, and the weight of the fear that had kept him tethered for so long. Day after day, he watched as the current moved with effortless grace, flowing smoothly over the riverbed, as though it carried the wisdom of ages. He saw how it was unhurried, yet persistent, moving with purpose, as if it knew exactly where it was going. And in this, he found himself entranced. While the others complained about the effort required to maintain their grip on the rocks, he wondered, what would it feel like to trust that flowing water? I am tired of clinging, he declared one morning, his voice filled with both resolve and fear. Though I cannot see where it leads, I trust that the current knows its destination. I shall let go and allow it to carry me where it will. I fear that if I continue clinging, I shall die of boredom before I ever truly live. The other creatures gasped in horror. Fool, they cried. Let go, and that current will tumble you mercilessly across the rocks below. You will be battered and broken, dying far more quickly than any boredom could ever kill you. But the small creature had made his decision. He was determined to free himself from the bondage of his fear, the shackles of the known, and to trust in something greater than his need for security. With a deep breath, he released his grip on the familiar stone. Immediately, the current seized him. Just as the others had predicted, he was tossed and tumbled across the rocky bottom, the rough stones scraping and battering him. Pain surged through his small body, a pain he had never known while safely clinging to the rocks. Yet something extraordinary began to happen. Despite the pain, he refused to grab for new anchors. He surrendered fully to the current's power, refusing to resist, to fight. As he continued to surrender, the water gradually lifted him higher, and the tumbling began to cease. The rocks could no longer reach him, and he began to flow with the current itself, no longer fighting its direction. He became one with its movement, Carried by the very force that had once seemed so threatening, he moved with the river, as though he had always been meant to be part of its flow. As he traveled downstream, other creatures from distant parts of the river witnessed something they had never seen before. Here was one of their own kind, yet he appeared to be flying through the water, moving with such power and elegance. "See a miracle," they cried out. "A creature like ourselves, yet he soars. Surely he is the Messiah come to save us all." The flowing creature heard their cries, and though moved with compassion for their misunderstanding, he called back to them, "I am no more Messiah than any of you. The river delights in lifting us all free, if only we dare to let go. Our true work is not clinging to the bottom, but embracing this voyage, this grand adventure of trust and flow." But the creatures, still clinging to their familiar rocks, did not hear his words. They only cried louder, "Savior, Savior." Even as they spoke, they tightened their grips on the rocks and roots that had held them for so long. They watched as the small creature disappeared around a bend, and they began weaving legends about the miraculous Savior who had briefly graced their village. Buddha's wisdom reminds us, you only lose what you cling to. This ancient teaching illuminates the profound paradox at the heart of the human experience. We spend our lives grasping for security, control, and stability, believing that our safety depends on holding tight to familiar circumstances, relationships, and identities. Yet in this very grasping, we create the suffering we seek to avoid. We resist change, and in doing so, we tie ourselves to a future that will never arrive. We refuse to acknowledge the fluidity of life, and instead, we trap ourselves in a cycle of tension, constantly battling against the natural flow of existence. Why do we cling so desperately when the current offers to carry us toward unknown adventures? Zen Buddhism reveals that from early childhood, we are conditioned to believe that the known is safe and the unknown is dangerous. This conditioning becomes a spiritual obstacle, preventing us from growing beyond the limitations of our familiar world. We also suffer from the illusion of control, believing that by grasping at circumstances, relationships, and identities, we can somehow stop the natural flow of change. But this belief creates enormous tension because it puts us in opposition to reality itself. Life is a constant movement, a flow that cannot be stopped or controlled. And when we resist this truth, we exhaust ourselves, fighting currents far more powerful than our individual will. The current of life will carry us, whether we choose to fight or to flow. The real question is not whether the current will come, but how we choose to respond to it. Will we cling to the rocks, trapped by fear and the illusion of safety, or will we surrender to the current, trusting that it knows where it is taking us, and that, in the end, we will be carried to a place of peace? The choice is ours. And in making it, we discover that the true miracle lies not in the destination, but in the act of letting go. In that moment of clarity, Zhou felt the weight of his search lift, as though a veil had been removed. The very effort to seek, to grasp, to achieve something beyond his present experience had been the source of his confusion. Nansen's words, simple yet profound, unraveled the layers of expectation that had clouded Zhou's mind. The ordinary mind, the way, was not something to be attained or cultivated. It was already here, in the present moment, waiting to be recognized, not through striving or effort, but through letting go of the need to attain anything at all. Joshu, sitting in the temple hall, felt a quiet peace wash over him. It was not the kind of peace he had imagined, not the stillness of an empty mind or the absence of thought. It was the peace of deep acceptance, of recognizing that everything he had been seeking had always been within his grasp. The ordinary mind was the way, and it had been here all along, woven into the very fabric of his daily life. There was no need for grand spiritual achievements, no need to chase after enlightenment. The way was not hidden in some distant place. It was right here in the simplicity of his own experience. The teachings of Nansen echoed in Joshu's heart. The way does not belong to knowing or not knowing. The striving for knowledge, the desire to grasp and understand, only turned the way into something conceptual, something that could be defined and limited. But true realization of the way was beyond both knowing and not knowing. It was the vast, boundless presence that could not be captured by the mind. It was a way of being fully present, fully alive, and fully awake to the simplicity of the moment. In this understanding, Joshu realized that the pursuit of answers had always been a form of resistance. His grasping for certainty, for definitions, had kept him separate from the ordinary mind that was always available to him. But now he saw clearly that the key to awakening was not in the effort to attain something greater, but in the simple act of releasing the effort altogether. The teachings of Nansen had shattered Joshu's mental constructs, revealing the profound truth hiding in plain sight. The way was not a destination to reach, but a path to walk right here, right now. There was no need for elaboration, no need for complexity. The way was in the stillness of the moment, in the very act of surrendering the need for answers. It was in the recognition that everything he had been searching for was already present in the ordinariness of his own experience. The realization came not as a sudden flash of insight, but as a quiet settling within. It was the understanding that everything he needed was already here, and that the way was not something to be searched for, but to be lived. The ordinary mind was not something to attain. It was the mind that was already here, unadorned, unpretentious, and complete in its simplicity. As Joshu sat quietly, his mind relaxed into the present, no longer burdened by the weight of seeking, the pressure of achievement, or the desire to reach some distant goal. In that moment, he understood that the path he had been walking, though filled with effort and striving, had always been leading him back to this simplicity. The way had always been right in front of him, in the ordinary moments of life, in the breath he was taking, in the silence that surrounded him. Nansen's teaching had unveiled a profound truth. The ordinary mind, the way, was not something to be obtained through effort, but something to be recognized in the absence of effort. It was not in the striving for something extraordinary, but in the acceptance of the ordinary, where true awakening could be found. This moment of realization, simple and unadorned, became the cornerstone of Joshu's understanding. And so, the path that had once seemed so complicated, so full of confusion, now revealed its true simplicity. The search for meaning, the quest for answers, had always been a distraction from the very thing he had been seeking. The way was here in the simplicity of this moment, in the acceptance of what is, without needing to change anything. In that quiet moment of clarity, Josh understood that the journey was never about seeking something beyond himself. It was about letting go of the need to grasp, to define, and to attain. It was about realizing that the way is not somewhere else. It is here, now in the ordinary mind. And with this understanding, Josh felt the peace he had been searching for settle deeply within him. Not the clarity of understanding something new, but the clarity of recognizing what had been present all along. Buddha's wisdom gently reminds us that there is nothing to seek and nothing to find. Everything we need, everything we long for is already here, already present within us. The heart of this lesson lies not in some mystical, otherworldly state, but in the simple recognition that the very awareness you are experiencing right now, the awareness reading these words, is the essence of spiritual practice. Why do we struggle to accept that ordinary mind is the way? Zen Buddhism points to our deep conditioning, a belief that spiritual truth must be extraordinary, mystical, or dramatically different from our everyday experience. We imagine enlightenment as a permanent state of bliss, cosmic consciousness, or supernatural abilities. We picture it as something so far removed from ordinary life that it seems out of reach, almost unattainable. But in reality, enlightenment is simply the natural state of awareness, free from the layers of seeking and striving. Our spiritual seeking, ironically, often becomes its own obstacle. It's like a person frantically searching for their glasses while they're already wearing them. We exhaust ourselves looking for something we already possess. The very effort to attain a special spiritual state, to transcend the ordinary, creates a sense of separation between the seeker and the sought, between the ordinary self and some idealized, awakened self. Now, consider your own mind in this very moment. Thoughts rise and fall. Sensations flow through your body. Sounds reach your ears. Emotions come and go, like waves in the ocean. This natural functioning of consciousness, without any special effort, concentration, or striving, is what Nansen refers to as ordinary mind. It's already enlightened, not because it achieves some exceptional state, but because it is the space in which all states arise and dissolve. Zen Master Hangpo simply said, "Your everyday mind, that is the way." It's as if to say, just like now, without seeking anything, without grasping after the fruits of Zen, just this mind that thinks, feels, and perceives. This is Buddha. This ordinariness, this simplicity, is what makes it so difficult to recognize. We keep looking past it, searching for something more impressive, something that fits the mold of what we imagine enlightenment should look like. The great void that Nansen mentions is not an empty space, but rather the spacious awareness in which all experiences, joy and sorrow, clarity and confusion, peace and agitation, appear and disappear. Like the sky that remains unchanged, whether it is filled with clouds or clear, this awareness remains constant through the ever-changing contents of experience. This understanding shifts our approach to spiritual practice. Instead of striving to achieve some special, extraordinary state, we learn to recognize the awareness that is already present. Instead of seeking to transcend ordinary experience, we begin to see the extraordinary nature of ordinariness itself. The sound of rain becomes as sacred as the ringing of temple bells. Washing dishes becomes as profound as formal meditation. In Japanese aesthetics, there is a concept called wabi-sabi, which is the art of finding beauty in imperfection and impermanence. This appreciation for the ordinary and imperfect mirrors the very understanding that Nansen points to. The way is not found in some perfected, idealized state, but in the natural flow of life, exactly as it is. Tonight, as you sit in stillness and simply experience the fact of being aware of these words, aware of your breath, aware of the sounds around you, can you recognize this ordinary awareness as what you have been seeking all along? Can you relax the effort to become something other than what you already are? As the Buddha taught, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. In this moment, peace is not something you need to chase. It is already here, in the simplicity of the present, in the quiet awareness that is always available. The search for peace often leads us further away from it, because we mistake it for something we need to attain. But peace is not something external. It is not a distant state that we must strive to reach. It is already within you, in the ordinary, in the imperfection, in the simplicity of your own mind. When we stop seeking, when we stop striving, and when we recognize the fullness of this present moment, we find that the peace we have been searching for has always been here, waiting quietly in the ordinary mind. The way is not a destination to reach, but the very ground you are already standing on. In accepting your ordinary mind as Buddha mind, you discover that the spiritual journey was never about going somewhere else, but about recognizing where you have always been. The journey is not about changing your circumstances or reaching some distant goal. It's about realizing that you are already where you need to be, fully present in the moment. Let us continue on our journey with this understanding through the lesson revealed in the story of the two monks and the woman at the river. Two monks were traveling together along a mountain path, making their way to a distant monastery where they planned to continue their studies. Both were dedicated practitioners who had taken strict vows as part of their spiritual training. Among these vows was a commitment to avoid any physical contact with women, a discipline they believed would help maintain their focus on their spiritual development. As they approached a swollen river, they found that the usual bridge had been damaged by recent storms. At the edge of the river, a young woman stood, clearly anxious and uncertain. The current was powerful and treacherous, filled with debris from the mountain runoff, and she was afraid to cross alone. "Please, honored monks," she called out to them, "could one of you help me cross this dangerous water? I'm not strong enough to make it safely on my own." The first monk immediately tensed. His mind raced through the rules they had sworn to follow, and he began thinking of ways to explain why they couldn't help her. Physical contact with women was forbidden, and he couldn't see a way around that. Perhaps they could suggest another way, a solution that wouldn't require breaking their vows. But the second monk, without hesitation or lengthy deliberation, walked over to the woman. Without any mental resistance or conflict, he gently lifted her onto his shoulders and carried her across the dangerous current, ensuring her safety with each careful step. When they reached the other side, he gently set her down on solid ground. She bowed to both monks in gratitude before continuing on her way. The two monks resumed their journey, but the atmosphere between them had shifted. The first monk walked in silence, his thoughts churning. He was unsettled by what had just occurred, and with each passing hour, the internal tension within him grew. Finally, unable to hold his distress any longer, he burst out, "Brother, I cannot understand your behavior at the river. Our training explicitly teaches us to avoid any physical contact with women, yet you picked that woman up and carried her across the water. How could you so blatantly violate our sacred vows?" The second monk looked at him with gentle surprise. "Brother," he said with simplicity, "I set her down on the other side of the river hours ago, but you are still carrying her." In that moment, the first monk understood the lesson. He had been holding on to something that was no longer present, clinging to his thoughts and judgments about what had happened. The woman had crossed the river, and the situation had passed, but the first monk continued to carry it mentally, burdened by the weight of his attachment to rules and expectations. Buddha's wisdom teaches us that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. In the same way, holding on to past grievances or judgments keeps us tethered to a moment that has long passed. Our suffering arises not from what happens to us, but from our inability to release experiences once they've ended. We replay scenarios in our minds, nursing grievances that only exist in our own thoughts, and in doing so, we continue to carry unnecessary weight. This story reveals the profound difference between compassionate action and mental attachment. The second monk acted in the moment, responding to the immediate need with grace and clarity. He didn't carry the weight of his actions beyond the riverbank. In contrast, the first monk became burdened by the rules he clung to, unable to let go of the past and move forward. The second monk knew that true spiritual practice is not about following rigid rules or holding on to attachments. It's about being present in the moment and responding with compassion and wisdom. Zen Buddhism teaches us that the key to freedom from suffering is not in holding tightly to our concepts, rules, or judgments, but in releasing them when they no longer serve us. Letting go of our mental attachments allows us to move with life's flow, to be present with what is, and to free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. By practicing this release, we create space for peace, clarity, and compassionate action in our lives. So, when we find ourselves caught in past experiences, replaying them in our minds, we must ask ourselves, why are we still carrying this? What would it feel like to let go? The answer, as Zen teaches, is simple. Let go of what has passed, release what may come, and rest in the stillness of the present moment. By doing so, we discover that we are free, just like the second monk, who walked across the river with nothing more than the simplicity of now. As the young boatman made his way across the river, the mist enveloping everything in sight, his usual fiery temper began to simmer. Navigating through the fog was difficult, and as he steered his boat carefully through the water, he couldn't shake the feeling of being disturbed by every little thing. The murmur of the water against the hull, the slight creak of the boat's wooden planks, even the whisper of the breeze. His mind, usually so quick to jump to irritation, began to spin with frustration. The fog made the journey more challenging, and with each minute his temper grew shorter. Suddenly, in the distance, he noticed something moving towards him through the mist. It was another boat, seemingly out of nowhere. The boatman couldn't see the figure clearly, but it appeared to be moving directly into his path. His irritation flared immediately. How dare this other boatman be so careless? Doesn't he know how to navigate in fog? The boatman's heart began to race, and a wave of anger washed over him. As the boats drew closer, the young boatman prepared himself for a confrontation. He gripped the oars tightly, ready to shout or even crash into the other boat to teach the careless boatman a lesson. But as the two boats neared, something strange happened. In fact, it didn't move at all. The boatman's mind raced. He couldn't see anyone inside the boat. Confused, and now even more agitated, he rowed closer and, still furious, reached out to push the boat away. As he reached for the boat, he realized, with a sudden shock, that there was no one in the boat at all. The boatman paused, his hand still hovering over the empty vessel. His heart, which had been racing with anger only moments before, now began to slow. A quiet realization started to dawn on him. He had been angry at something that was not even real. He had projected his frustration onto this empty boat, and in doing so, he had allowed his own mind to become consumed by anger. In that moment, everything shifted. The fog didn't seem as thick anymore. The water felt less oppressive. The boatman let go of his grip on the oars, allowing the boat to drift for a moment. He took a deep breath, the heavy weight of anger lifting from his chest. Buddha's teachings on anger are deeply clear. We suffer not because of the external world, but because of the projections we place onto it. The boatman had projected his anger, frustration, and irritation onto the empty boat, creating a conflict in his mind where none existed. His anger was not caused by the boat or its supposed occupant, but by his own thoughts, judgments, and assumptions. This story reveals the profound nature of projection. When we become angry or upset, we often project our own internal conflicts onto the world around us. We see others through the lens of our own frustrations and insecurities, and we react to these projections as though they were real. In truth, most of our anger comes from the stories we create in our minds about the way things should be or the way others should behave. These projections trap us in a cycle of frustration and suffering. In Zen practice, we learn that awareness and mindfulness are the tools that help us break free from this cycle. When we notice ourselves becoming angry or upset, we are invited to pause, observe the situation without attachment, and recognize that our reactions are often based on our internal projections rather than the reality of the situation. By acknowledging this, we can let go of the anger and allow ourselves to return to the present moment, unburdened by the weight of unnecessary emotions. As you reflect on your own life, consider how often you project your feelings onto others, how often your anger or frustration is based on assumptions or misunderstandings. How many times have you, like the boatman, been angry at something that wasn't really there? Can you remember a time when you were furious at a situation only to realize later that you had created the entire conflict in your mind? The Buddha's wisdom offers us a simple yet profound practice. When you are angry, observe the anger without becoming it. Recognize the projection and release it. This doesn't mean denying our emotions, but rather recognizing them for what they are. Fleeting sensations that arise in the mind. When we stop identifying with them, we stop feeding them. Tonight, as you go through your day or evening, observe the moments when you feel anger or frustration arise. Can you identify what you are projecting onto the situation? Can you pause and release that projection, returning to the present moment with clarity and peace? In Zen, the practice is to see things as they truly are, free of the lens of our judgments and expectations. The empty boat was not the cause of the boatman's anger. His mind was, and in recognizing this, he was freed. Just like the boatman, we too can find peace by recognizing and releasing our projections, and in doing so discover the quiet wisdom that resides in the space between our thoughts. The boatman squinted through the thick, gray mist, his hands firmly gripping the oars as he steered his small wooden craft across the river. The familiar waters felt different this morning, shrouded in a fog so dense that he could barely make out the shape of the opposite bank. As he maneuvered, his eyes suddenly caught sight of another boat, drifting steadily towards him through the fog. It was heading directly into his path. "Hey, turn aside," he shouted, his voice slicing through the mist, panic creeping into his tone. "You're going to hit me. Can't you see where you're going?" But the other boat didn't slow down or veer off course. It continued its steady approach, undeterred by the boatmen's cries. The boatman's frustration mounted with each passing second. He shouted again, his voice now laced with fury. "Can't you hear me? Move. What kind of fool are you?" His mind raced with anger, imagining the incompetence of the other boat's pilot. How could someone be so careless? How dare they disrupt his peaceful morning journey? The tension within him grew, his heart pounding in his chest as the boats neared each other. Finally, with a sharp jolt, the two vessels collided, the impact vibrating through his boat. The boatman's anger reached a boiling point. His fists clenched, his face flushed with rage. He was ready to leap across the gap between the boats, to confront the careless pilot and unleash his fury. But as he peered through the mist at the boat that had collided with his own, he saw something that stopped him in his tracks. The boat was empty. There was no one at the tiller, no one steering or even sitting in the boat. It was just a drifting vessel, caught in the current, moving without direction, with no one to blame. In that moment, his anger dissolved completely. He stood frozen for a second, the full realization settling in. There was no one to confront, no one to shout at, no target for his rage. The energy he had built up inside him, the fury that had been driving him, suddenly had nowhere to go. The anger was an empty vessel, just like the boat in front of him. With a deep breath, he pushed the empty boat gently away from his own and resumed his journey. The mist around him seemed to lift, and the water felt calm again. His mind, once boiling with irritation, was now as still as the river he was navigating. The peace he had lost in his anger returned, and he moved forward with a quiet understanding that the cause of his frustration had never really been there to begin with. Buddha's wisdom teaches us that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The true heart of this lesson lies in recognizing that much of our anger is directed at empty boats, projections of malice and intent where none exists. This story reveals a deep truth about human reactivity. We often create stories in our minds about the motivations and intentions of others that lead us to suffering. Much of our emotional pain comes not from the actions of others, but from the narratives we spin around those actions. We assume someone has wronged us, when in reality, their actions may have nothing to do with us at all. We create imaginary pilots for empty boats, attaching our anger to actions that, when examined more closely, reveal no malicious intent. Why do we do this? Why do we so readily populate empty boats with imaginary drivers to blame? One reason is that our minds are conditioned to quickly assess situations and attribute agency to them. This survival instinct, which helped our ancestors distinguish between a rustling bush caused by wind and a potential predator in the shadows, has evolved into a tendency to quickly assign negative intent in social situations. We project our emotions onto the actions of others without considering the full context. Consider your daily interactions. When someone cuts you off in traffic, do you immediately assume they are inconsiderate and selfish? When a colleague ignores your greeting, do you assume they are being rude or dismissive? When a friend cancels plans at the last minute, do you take it personally, interpreting it as a sign that they don't value your friendship? In each of these situations, you may be creating a pilot for an empty boat. The driver who cut you off might be rushing to get to the hospital with a sick family member. The colleague who didn't return your greeting might be dealing with personal issues or deep sadness. Your friend who canceled plans might be struggling with anxiety or other emotional challenges. Most people's actions are driven by their internal experiences, not by an intention to harm others. Zen Master Hang Po taught, "The foolish reject what they see, not what they think. The wise reject what they think, not what they see." This teaching points to the profound importance of seeing things as they are, without the filter of our assumptions, judgments, or projections. When we reject the stories we create in our minds, we free ourselves from the suffering those stories cause. In Zen practice, we learn to observe our reactions without clinging to them, to see our anger and frustration without immediately acting on them. We learn that when we stop attaching false meaning to situations, we free ourselves from the burden of unnecessary emotional suffering. Tonight, as you reflect on your interactions and experiences, can you notice when you are projecting anger or frustration onto an empty boat? Can you recognize that many of the things you carry in your mind are not based on reality, but on your own assumptions? Can you let go of those projections, releasing them into the mist, and return to the peace of the present moment? As Buddha's wisdom reminds us, in the end, only three things matter. True spiritual practice is not about following rigid rules or trying to control every situation, but about responding to the present moment with clarity, compassion, and an open heart. It's about letting go of the imaginary pilots and empty boats we carry, and simply allowing ourselves to be carried forward by the current of life. When we react to our interpretations rather than to what actually happened, we're fighting empty boats. This doesn't mean we become passive or fail to set healthy boundaries when necessary. If someone's behavior affects you negatively, it's possible to address it with clarity and kindness without creating elaborate stories about their intentions. You can say, "When you interrupted me, I felt unheard," rather than assuming, "You're always so disrespectful and self-centered." The practice here is to pause when anger arises and ask yourself, "Am I reacting to what actually happened, or to the story I'm telling myself about what happened? Am I angry at the person's actions or at the imaginary pilots I've placed in their empty boat?" In Zen meditation, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions as transient phenomena, not as absolute truths. When anger arises, instead of immediately believing it or acting on it, we can notice that anger is here, and we can ask, what story is my mind creating? What am I assuming about this person's intentions? By doing so, we begin to see our emotions more clearly, without being overwhelmed by them. The Buddha's wisdom is clear. You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. Each time we populate an empty boat with a malicious pilot, we create unnecessary suffering for ourselves. Each time we remember that most boats are simply drifting with the current, we free ourselves from the burden of reactivity. Tonight, as you reflect on recent moments of frustration or anger, can you identify which boats were truly piloted and which were empty? One day, can you feel the difference in your body between reacting to harmful intent versus responding to simple circumstance? As the Buddha taught, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. When we stop fighting empty boats, we discover that peace was available all along, in the simplicity of our own awareness and in our ability to release what no longer serves us. Now, let us rest here together in this final stillness. Find a comfortable position and gently allow your eyes to close if they are not already. Take one slow, deep breath in, and as you breathe out, release a soft sigh, letting go of any remaining effort. Let your body become heavy, supported, and completely at ease. Bring your awareness to the vast, quiet space of your mind. Imagine it as a clear night sky. Thoughts may still drift by like faint clouds, but remember, you are the sky, not the clouds. Rest as this spacious, open awareness. Now, feel into the center of your chest. Imagine a small, soft, warm ember glowing there. This is the warmth of your own kindness, your own good heart. Feel this warmth gently spreading through your body, a feeling of safety, peace, and being at home with yourself. Finally, feel the weight of your entire body surrendering to gravity, held completely by the surface beneath you. You are safe. You are held. You are at peace. There is nothing more you need to do. There is nowhere else you need to be. Just this, just here. This quiet darkness, this gentle breath, this profound stillness. May you carry this peace with you as you drift into sleep. May your rest be deep, healing, and dreamless. May you awaken in the morning feeling restored, knowing that the peace you have cultivated within yourself is a gift to all those you meet. Thank you for walking this path with me. Rest well, and may you remember, even for a fleeting moment, the vast and quiet space that is your true home. Walk through your days with a lighter step and a softer heart, knowing that you are always held by a grace far greater than your worries.